Alrighty then. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CanCon Week in Review, where we go through all the big stories from the last week. And holy crap, this was a crazy week. There are weeks, what's the old saying? There are weeks when decades happen and decades when weeks happen. And this was the former, a week when decades happen. There was a lot that went on this week. Everything ranging from the Maduro situation is getting outright crazy. We had the Hegseth, the boats. I'm going to show you guys today what I've been telling you about these drug interdictions and why Trump is doing the right thing. I'm going to show you what happens when we go back to the old way, the CIA's way of doing this. I'm going to show you. People put it out there yesterday. This Coast Guard video that's going around exemplifies exactly what I've been trying to tell you guys about why President Trump is doing it right. And this is why all of this is connected, I think. I think all of this is connected. I think the drug strikes, the attacks on Venezuela, all of this is connected, guys. I'm going to show you that. We're going to start out with some light news here, some new stuff, but we'll get into, I promise, we're going to get into the J6 pipe bomber. That's a huge one. How did I forget that one? After 5 years, they finally got the guy, an autistic 5'6" black man who lives in his mom's basement. Yeah, the world's greatest law enforcement agency finally caught the guy after 5 years hiding out in his mom's basement 20 miles away from D.C. Holy shit, they think we're retarded. They really think we're retarded. Me and Chris Paul had a blast yesterday on Badlands Daily unpacking that one. Holy crap. All right, guys, we are going to get into the show. If you have not done so, please smash that thumbs up on whichever platform you're watching. Please do me a favor. Jump over either now, when the show's over, whatever the case might be. If you're on Rumble, jump over to YouTube. Give me a follow over there. If you're on YouTube, jump over to Rumble. Give me a follow there. Follow me on all the other socials at CanCon Actual on X. I think I'm even on BlueSky. I'm at just CanCon on Truth. At BlueSky, I think it's like CanCon Actual as well. I think on BlueSky. I like trolling the lefties every once in a while. All right, let's jump into the news. So we talked about this yesterday briefly. Supreme Court rules Texas can use the redistricting map during 2026 midterms. Great. I don't know what else to really say about that. We might pick up 5 seats in Texas now. California is going to negate that with Prop 50 and gerrymander the shit out of that state, even more than it's already gerrymandered. They're going to gerrymander that state even harder. It's going to be gerrymandered so hard that Republicans are going to have no representation when they're done. It's disgusting, man. Like, the districting lines, like, granted, Texas is now a little bit closer to in line with where California was before Prop 50. It's getting closer to where California's historically been, but it's still, it's still ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But that's a good ruling, right? That's a good ruling from SCOTUS on that front. Let's jump over. I've got 2 clips I want to play from Harmeet Dillon, U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division attorney, and let me get it queued up where I want it. There it is. All right, let's jump into this clip here. And I've got a follow-up. I played this one yesterday, but I've got a follow-up clip as well.
What are they arguing? Mainly they're arguing privacy, or that the reason that the DOJ has given for this information isn't the real reason. You know, they always have some silly conspiracy theory going, but actually don't have to give a reason. Under the federal laws that we've cited, we're entitled to this information. The states don't get to go back and forth with us. One of the dumbest reasons that I hear put up is, Social Security number is confidential. Well, how can it be confidential from the federal government that
Bingo.
issues the Social Security numbers?
Bingo.
That's really silly. And the other thing that people should know is that almost all of the states that are using this argument voluntarily hand over their voter roll information to nonprofit and NGO groups. ERIC is one of them.
Yep.
And so what's the privacy concern? If you're willing to give it to some nonprofit that benefits your political agenda, why aren't you going to give it to the United States? So we are not going to be deterred by these reasons. That is why so many states are actually falling into line. They realize that it would be a waste of tax dollars to fight these efforts. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is help all of the states do their jobs better. Each of these states is required to keep clean voter rolls. They're not doing it for the most part. This is red states and blue states, I'm sorry to say. We did get some resistance from both sides, but we're just here to help. So we're going to, compare data. We're going to help eliminate duplicates and help them root out fraud and get people off the voter rolls who shouldn't be there. And then it's really up to the states again to continue to maintain that.
All right. So Harmeet there, breaking that down. She's spot on, by the way. And if you guys know, we live streamed probably like 3 weeks ago. We live streamed a hearing in Georgia where they had Garland Favorito. We played it on Why We Vote. Ash and I did. There was a guy, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but so Garland was testifying, absolutely disgusting testimony. I actually played it on this show too, the Week in Review, I think. But before that, the executive director of ERIC was testifying. ERIC of ERIC. Election Registration Information Center. They handle the voter rolls for like 27 or 23 states. I think it's down to 23. We've gotten a lot of states to pull out of that partisan hack NGO. That, by the way, does not check when you send your data. They don't check. They don't allow you to send up naturalization and citizenship status. So when these states send their data to ERIC, it's just data. It's just, here's all the people who have interacted with our, DMV, any welfare subsidies, any government agency that you interact with, they're registering you to vote in many of these states, not all states. Automatic voter registration. ERIC, the company that's processing those, does not allow you to send citizenship status up to them. Now, the ERIC was taught. So Harmeet Dillon is missing. This just hit me. He's missing a key component. It's not that ERIC is sending. It's not that ERIC is receiving this information. It's that ERIC is passing it on to other NGOs, and specifically the CEIR, the Center for Election Innovation and Research. It's like ERIC took the letters, scrambled it up, and made CEIR. Same executive founder, right? ERIC was founded by David Becker, partisan lawyer who was like absolutely destroyed when he was in the DOJ for being a partisan hack. I think Hans von Spassky, however you say his name, is on the record. Influence Watch has a good piece if you look up David Becker talking about what he did at the DOJ, his partisanship there. But so David Becker left and started ERIC, and then he started the CEIR. The CEIR goes around, and I don't know, they're the Center for Election Innovation and Research, and under this like umbrella that they were going to use voter rolls to do a science experiment to see how people responded to mailers to vote. They got the data from ERIC. ERIC is not supposed to give them to NGOs. There is, I think it's, I wrote an article on this for Gateway Pundit. I'm trying to remember. I think it's the Driver's License Database Act or something, that you're not allowed to share this information with private entities. And ERIC shared it with CEIR, but it's under the grounds of research, guys. It's for science. And that's how CEIR was able to get it in 2020. God only knows what they did with it, because it's a private corporation, private NGO, and we can't get any information on that. So I do challenge Harmeet Dillon on how she kind of, and it didn't register with me until like just now, like literally just now. I was like rooting for that. I'm like, yeah, she knows what's up. And then she was a little bit misleading on that. And I don't think it was deliberate. I'm not saying Harmeet Dillon's a bad actor or anything like that. I think Harmeet Dillon's kicking ass right now. Here's another clip of her.
Hi, I'm Harmeet Dillon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, and I'm here to share an important update about one of my many important duties here at the DOJ, which is enforcing our federal election laws. Here's some facts and figures for you. In the last 8 months, the DOJ has reached out to all 50 states, asking them to share their voter rolls with us so that we can help them comply with the Help America Vote Act, which requires states to maintain clean voter rolls. 4 states complied voluntarily. We sued North Carolina early on, and they are checking the voter records of 100,000 voters who were improperly enrolled on their voter rolls, and they're going to fix their problem voluntarily. We have an agreement in place almost with another dozen states, and I expect very soon we'll be looking at their voter data and comparing it with our records and helping them clean up those voter rolls. Now we have 15 lawsuits pending against 14 states. That's right, California got sued twice, and we are in litigation with them. They're refusing to provide their records, even though many of these states voluntarily provide their voter rolls to nonprofit groups like ERIC and even other groups. And so we are going to make sure that we get to the bottom of those, and then we're going to get to the rest of the states. So we're engaged with nearly 30 states. Here's what we found so far. We've checked 47.5 million voter records. We've found 260,000 plus dead people enrolled in the state's voter rolls, which is pretty concerning. They're going to be removed with the help of the DOJ. And finally, that there are several thousand non-citizens who are enrolled to vote in federal elections. This is very concerning, and the DOJ is partnering with local law enforcement where appropriate to prosecute people who have unlawfully voted in our elections. Even one person voting who shouldn't have voted is one too many, because every citizen is entitled to one person, one vote assumption that
Hey, there's a shout out to one person, one vote.
Their vote is being counted equally and only with other American citizens. We will not rest at this DOJ with the leadership of the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, until we complete this process.
Okay, we can stop there. But so here's the thing that you need to keep in mind, and this is very much in line with the SNAP story that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to play a clip here from Brooke Rollins, Secretary Brooke Rollins. When Harmeet says we've looked at 47.5 million, we found 260,000 dead voters and several thousand illegals registered. Keep in mind, guys, that is predominantly the red states that are cooperating so far. And I'm not saying that red states are good. They're not. They're almost equally as trash as the blue states. Well, no, they're not. They're trash. They're not as bad at trash. They're like, you ever like, I don't know, when you throw away trash, do you ever have like this is like stuff that's gonna spoil, so you put that in a separate trash bin than like papers and recycling, right? Recycling's not going to stink. It's not going to whatever. But then you throw like meat or fish or something like that, raw meat, you throw that away and it's going to stink in like a week. That's the blue states. The red states, they're like the recycle bin. You want to get them out of there, but you know, it's not, it is what it is. When they start going through these the blue states, the sanctuary states, the states that have massive numbers of illegals. Look at California. You can get, as an illegal alien, you can get a driver's license in California. How many of these blue states can you get? And this goes for every state, by the way. Can you get a driver's license if you're here on a visa or a green card? You cannot vote, but you can get a driver's license in all 50 states if you have a green card. How many of those people are on the voter rolls? So until this is thoroughly gone through and all states comply, and the idea that they don't have to is absurd. You know, this is like, well, let's jump into the Secretary Rollins clip, because this is going to be along the same lines.
In February of this year, we asked for all the states for the first time to turn over their data to the federal government, to let the USDA partner with them to root out this fraud, to make sure that those who really need food stamps are getting them, but also to ensure that the American taxpayer is protected. 21 states said yes, not surprised. 29 states said yes, not surprisingly, the red states. And that's where all of that data, that fraud comes from. But 21 states, including California, New York, and Minnesota, the blue states, continue to say no. So as of next week, we have begun and will begin to stop moving federal funds into those states until they comply and they tell us and allow us to partner with them to root out this fraud and to protect the American taxpayer.
Let's go.
As Joe Biden was working to buy an election a year ago, he increased food stamp program funding by 40%. So now as we continue to roll that back, So the partnership in Making America Healthy Again is also in food stamps, but a lot of what Bobby and I are doing together is really remarkable. But again, just gratitude and joy for this work, and so grateful to you. The final.
Let's go. Let's go. That's something we've been saying for a long time. So this whole system needs to be dropped. And Secretary Rollins saying that, she said, I think 2 weeks ago, she said that SNAP needs to be completely drained and you need to re-register. You're going to have 3 months to come in and re-register, prove your citizenship, prove your work eligibility, whether or not you're eligible to work, capable of working, and re-register. And let's take that fraud down, because I'm all for helping people that need help, especially if we can somehow get it to be like a short-term thing. But the waste, fraud, and abuse in the SNAP system is ridiculous. Now compare that with Social Security, compare that with Medicare and Medicaid, compare that with all of the databases of government welfare that we have out there. And then, factor in things like the voter rolls as well. And this is how this establishment system, kind of the quote unquote deep state, have been manipulating this country, pulling funds, influencing constituents to do certain things, to vote for certain people, to maintain certain ideologies. This is how they do it. They give you free stuff and you're forever beholden to them. And so now when we clean this up, hopefully we start to put this country back on the right track. But the voter rolls are key. It's the title of the first article I ever wrote for a national publication. The voter rolls are key. Uncover DC, and I think Gateway Pundit also published it. But yeah, I'm here for all of this. I love to hear this coming out. There was a story from Just the News this week. Food stamp data shows thousands of liquor and smoke shops are approved for EBT, raising fraud concerns. This count, they found over 4,000 stores that promoted alcohol in their name. And that's all they looked for. And 1,000 of them said tobacco in their name. And that's all. They didn't like, if it was called like ABC Liquor, Total Wine, those kinds of stores. If it was just like Pappy's Corner Store and all they sold was liquor, it's not going to pop. It's not going to show up, and so that's interesting. It only counted stores that referenced those products in their titles, and they found massive amounts of fraud. Now, not necessarily people buying liquor and all that, but using the system, the convenience stores themselves manipulating the EBT system. It says, according to the report from FGA, more than 70% of all food stamp traffickers are convenience stores like the liquor and smoke shops found in the database. And about half of all liquor and smoke shops identified by the group were approved as retailers during the Biden administration. So EBT SNAP has been around for a long time. Out of the 5,000 stores they named above, half, more than 2,500 of them were approved in the last 4 years under Joe Biden, the auto pen under Joe Biden. Air quotes. In 2025, the cost of the program was just over $100 billion. SNAP, $100 billion. And that's up from just $17.1 billion in the year 2000. So in 25 years, we have almost more than 5 times the amount of money we're spending on SNAP. Secretary Rollins asked each state to send their SNAP data to the USDA. That's going into what we were just talking about with Harmeet Dillon as well. Many states refused. They're suing. California is the state with the greatest number of SNAP recipients at 5.3 million. They're the ones that led the lawsuit. And nearly half. I love this one right here. Nearly half of all the alcohol and smoke shop retailers are located in California. So again, that's how they perpetuate the fraud. Somebody had told me a couple weeks ago, I said, this is what they do with these systems. This is what they do. They go out there and they say, hey, I'll buy all your groceries on my card. And you give me, if it's $500 worth of groceries, you give me $250. You give me $250, or you can give the grocery store $500. And I don't know like how the convenience store side works. I would imagine the convenience stores would be like, oh yeah, you buy this, and this, and I'll give you a deal on it. And I'll actually keep the product, but instead I'll give you an equivalent amount of liquor. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But the fact that they're saying that, 70% of the fraud, the EBT trafficking is coming from liquor stores and smoke shops is extremely concerning. Like, that's even more concerning than the stuff that Ship is breaking on X, the shipwreck show over on X. Showing these people going and buying like soda and Oreos and chips and, all the stuff that is, it's not healthy at all. But it's supposed to be like, a once in a while thing. You're supposed to have, maybe a couple Oreos after dinner. Oreos have gone to shit lately, like last decade or so. Oreos, they don't go stale anymore. Oreos do not go stale anymore. Used to be, if you opened a bag of Oreos and you left it out for more than like an hour, stale. Now you can leave the bag open for a week and you go back and they're still crunchy as can be. All those preservatives, very good for you. And that's why the SNAP community has a much higher rate of obesity than the non-SNAP community. Let's jump into this story. I love this one. The Epoch Times, tariff revenue hits record high, $31.4 billion from last month. It's up from the previous record high, which was in September. It's almost like, this is actually working, this tariff thing, right? Don Riedel says, crunchy Oreos. Yeah, don't eat the Oreos now, though, man. Don't eat them now. They're full of they're fireproof, man. They're fireproof. Take a torch to Oreos and nothing happens. Tariff revenue surged to $31.4 billion in October, setting a new monthly record as Trump administration's trade policies continue to remake U.S. trade flows and reshape the federal government's balance sheet. The October tariff income surge appears to reflect a deeper structural shift, with tariffs shifting from a marginal revenue source to one of the most rapidly expanding components of federal receipts. It surpassed the previous record of $29.7 billion set in September and is more than 4 times higher than the $7.3 billion collected in October of 2024. So if we're up 300% in 1 year, month over month, year over year by that month, hey, that is winning, man. That is exactly what President Trump said. He said tariffs is going to be your favorite word. It's my favorite word in the dictionary. It's going to be your favorite word in the dictionary. And he's out there telling us that, hey, you guys are probably going to have some significantly reduced federal income tax. I had a good friend of mine on Facebook the other day. Well, not a good friend of mine. He's a friend. But he's up in New York. And I posted this. I said, hey, this is how Trump is going to get rid of the federal income tax. He said, when's he ever said that? And so I showed him all the times for the last couple years. Well, couple years since the campaign, the last couple years that he's been working on this. And so, hell yeah, I'm all for it, man. Cut my income tax. You start to, cut the legs out from underneath the Fed, and I'm here for it. CNN grand jury declines to reindict Letitia James. Whatever. How is Letitia James, with a primary residence in Virginia, a home she bought in Virginia that she's now using as an investment property, listed as her prime residence? How is she able to do that? And why would a grand jury not want to look into that? I mean, you guys went after President Trump for Mar-a-Lago, where he undervalued Mar-a-Lago, even though there was no victim in that. Nobody lost money. Letitia James saved money on her taxes. So that's defrauding the American public or the Virginian public. So that's interesting. That is interesting. You will be okay being disabled. I don't know what that means. Says user RB89NC7GB9U. Oh, you're looking at it vertically. So you must be on the mobile version of this. How's that working? I talked to the guys over at Stuck in the Middle about this, and they were saying that the mobile thing really kicks ass for them on YouTube. So let's see how this is working out. Only 34 watching. I'm still crushed on YouTube, man. YouTube is like, I'm watching Behizzy and all my buddies, getting tens of thousands of followers now at their back, and I've lost like 200. I just don't care. I don't care. YouTube is scum still. Rumble's rocking. Rumble's where it's at, and I don't care if they have issues with that. So hey, you guys remember? I think it was last week, and I can't remember if it was on this show last week or if it was on Badlands Daily. But last week, when we were talking about the DC shooter, this Lachenwall Afghan Zero Unit guy, the CIA trained operative. I said none of it makes sense. I said this guy got in his car, drove 3,000 plus miles across the country, left his wife and kids behind, takes out a .357 revolver in broad daylight and assassinates 2 junior enlisted soldiers, a staff sergeant and a specialist. Not an NCO and a junior enlisted, I should say. Excuse me. I don't want to disparage Andrew Wolf, Staff Sergeant Wolf's rank. An NCO and a junior enlisted specialist. And a specialist might be an NCO in the Army. I don't know. I know there's like E4 is kind of weird in the Army where they have like specialist and then corporal. And I don't know. The Marine Corps is much more efficient on their rank. But anyways, so I said, this is a weird thing. Like, why would he do that? Why are you going to risk your life? If you're on jihad, you're going to kill yourself after, and you're going to do more damage than that. I'm being blunt here. You're going to do more damage than that. Strap a suicide vest and do something, right? Nope. 357 broad daylight, bam, bam. And then he gets caught. That was strange. And so one of the things I said is this feels like it's kind of a perpetuation of the Seditious Six and Alyssa Slotkin, the CIA officer, former CIA officer. And it made no sense. So now we got this reporting, and it is from the Daily Beast, but it sounds like something I said last week, in part. Feds probe stunning twist in DC National Guard murder. And what's that stunning twist? Well, U.S. intelligence is investigating information that a CIA hit squad threatened to murder Lachenwall's family. Oh, wait, nope. Doesn't say CIA. A Taliban hit squad threatened to murder Ramunula's Lachenwall's family in Afghanistan unless he opened fire on American troops in the national capital. The Taliban. This guy has a wife and 5 kids in Washington state. What family does he have left in Afghanistan that is more valuable to him than his wife and 5 sons? I told you how important 5 boys is to an Afghan, to any person, period, but especially in the culture, the Pashtun culture and the Afghan culture. 5 sons is an incredible blessing. And this guy went and murdered 2 low-level National Guardsmen because the Taliban was threatening his family in Afghanistan? I don't know about that, guys. I think it's probably a little bit more likely that it was the CIA. I mean, come on. But investigators are asking themselves why a man who is vetted by 2 administrations with no criminal record and no history of extremism should drive across the country on an apparent suicide mission to shoot a heavily armed U.S. military personnel with a revolver. That literally was taken almost verbatim from when I was saying this. Like, this guy drove 3,000 miles with a revolver? Right? What? One line of inquiry they are seriously pursuing, according to sources with knowledge of the investigation, is that Lachenwall was made an offer he could not refuse. Either he accepted the mission or his family in Afghanistan would be beaten, murdered, and possibly beheaded. Earlier this year, and tell me that this doesn't sound similar. Earlier this year, a member of the Afghan Triples, an elite special forces unit that was set up, trained, and funded by the UK. Just say MI6. MI5, maybe counterintel. I don't know. To combat the Taliban, managed to leave the country and get to Germany, hoping his family could follow on later. In retaliation, Yarmouk, 60, killed his wife and father and 4 of his children, including 2 little girls who were beheaded. So that sounds really serious, right? That sounds really serious. You killed his father and 4 of his kids and his wife. Well, the only person from Lachenwall that might still be in in Afghanistan for the Taliban to get to is maybe his dad, his mom. His wife and kids are here in the United States. It's more likely that they got a hold of the family and got to threaten the family. Remember, we still don't know what the place in San Diego that they searched was. And El Cajon was in that Rolling Stone magazine article about the 0 units, where they went down there and they were breaking bread, and the 0 unit commander, a guy from San Antonio, Texas, drove all the way or flew all the way to El Cajon, San Diego, to break bread with them. I don't know. It's kind of fishy. All right, let's get into the craziness of this J6 pipe bomb story. This one, I can't, guys, I cannot read this story seriously. There's, not to toot my own horn, there's not too many people in this movement that have covered J6 more than I have. And when I say there's a lot, got to remember there's tens of thousands of people doing what I'm doing right now. There's maybe 100 that I would consider, maybe not even 100, maybe like 24 that I would consider like top notch on J6. Guys like Gary McBride, Ivan Raiklen stayed on top of it. Kara Castronova. I'm trying to think. There's so many that are, in my, but anyways, this is something that we've been covering for a very long time. And this makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense. So let's get into this. Just the news. Road to finding J6 pipe bomb suspect paved with good intent, with fresh FBI eyes and thorough police work. Thorough police work, guys. That's all it took, was thorough police work. 5 years after police discovered pipe bombs, the FBI, reinvigorated by a new investigative team and leadership, finally arrested a suspect connected to the investigation. The arrest came after FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino led a new look into the mountains of evidence collected by the Bureau and its partners, including hundreds of hours of footage, cell phone, and credit card data. Adam Purser's laughing at Ivan Raiklen. Ivan Raiklen's forgotten more about J6 than you know, buddy. Sorry. You might not like him. I mean, he's very contentious. He's very inflammatory. I totally get that. But Ivan Raiklen's forgotten more about J6 than most people. Just think about that. FBI and Justice Department officials stressed that the Bureau obtained no new evidence or tips, but that a fresh look at the case files and data led to a breakthrough. That's a key word right there, guys. No new evidence or tips. The FBI obtained no new evidence or tips. What does that mean? If you didn't obtain any new evidence or tips, that means everything that you're basing this on right now was already in their possession. They already had all of this. We didn't come up with any new evidence. We did not get a tip. This case is 5 years old. We simply, and Deputy Director Bongino spearheaded this effort, went back and said, this is an individual who tried to bomb the United States Capitol. The RNC, the DNC, innocent civilians, and elected legislatures, the epicenter of our constitutional government, said FBI Director Kash Patel. And I do want to remind you guys, and I said this yesterday, I am still very much in both Bongino and Patel's corner. I think those guys are great. And I think they're exactly where they need to be. And if you get rid of the idea of like, you want to see Adam Schiff and Barack Obama and John Brennan and all these people in handcuffs right away, and you look at the lower level stuff that they're doing, the foot soldiers, the real people that are doing the harm to this country, that are perpetuating the deep state's mission at the lowest levels possible, and you work your way up, they've done fantastic. They have done fantastic. Doesn't mean you can't scrutinize the shit out of this. The newly filed criminal complaint shows that the FBI carefully analyzed the credit card purchases and bank records to isolate the components allegedly used to manufacture the bombs. The FBI relied on a bank checking account and 6 different credit cards associated with the suspect to break the case. Notably, Brian Cole Jr. appears to have compiled some of the materials the FBI alleges he used to construct the bombs long before the 2020 presidential election. The Bureau traced purchases of components that matched those used in the 2 bombs to stores across Northern Virginia, both in 2019 and 2020 ahead of January 6. Cole allegedly continued to purchase bomb-making materials after January 6, 2021, adding fresh mystery to the case and the suspect's motivations. Quote, what links does this individual have to anybody who's in this network? Who's supporting him? Is he tied to, any political movement, any political people? Is he tied to anybody, on the Hill? Is he tied to anybody? That, I think, is probably one of the big questions people want to know, said former chief of U.S. Capitol Police Steve Sund. Is he being funded? Was he being indoctrinated by anybody you know? I think the link of his network is going to be a very important next step in finding out, some of these answers. The criminal complaint indicates that Cole works in the office of a bail bondsman in Virginia, Brian Cole Sr., who works in the industry in Tennessee. His company works to, quote, free illegal immigrants from ICE facilities per the Daily Weimar. Cole Sr. also enlisted Ben Crump after he accused a local prosecutor of discrimination and racism. Okay. Let's play this one little clip because it's hilarious to watch Jake Tapper call Brian Cole a white man.
Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting a
30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs. Wouldn't Jake Tapper have loved if that was actually true? But again, I don't think this was the guy. I really don't. I'm trying to think before I go crazy on this story. Let's dive into the New York Post 2 days ago, excuse me. Brian Cole of Virginia identified as DC pipe bomb suspect. They call him a Chihuahua obsessed, Crocs loving, quote unquote, autistic like 30-year-old who lives with his parents. Brian Cole Jr. was known as a recluse, but was regularly seen walking his pocket-sized pup to and from the local 7-Eleven. Quote, he would wear shorts all winter long. No matter how cold it was, he would be outside in shorts walking, and he would wear red Crocs. Well, he got rid of the shorts, got some jeans, and got rid of the red Crocs, apparently, because he's not wearing shorts or red Crocs in that picture, but that's okay. We would always just comment, like, how is he in shorts? It's 20 degrees out in his red Crocs, walking with his dog all winter long. We all knew him as the guy that walked the Chihuahua. Okay. He doesn't talk. He doesn't talk to anybody. He's very antisocial. He keeps to himself. He's very introverted, very, very introverted. The guy that I know likes to walk his dog is pretty short and has really short legs, like uncommonly short legs. I would think that a gait analysis would be very easy to either rule him out or confirm him because his legs are uncommonly short. It's almost like they're trying to get out in front of this, not get out in front of, but lay the foundation for debunking the Steve Baker story at the Blaze. And I don't know if Steve Baker's story is correct or not. I've followed that story. I've listened to some of the shows that Baker and the other Blaze personalities have done with Kyle Seraphin and Steve Friend. I tend to have a lot of give credibility to Kyle Seraphin and Steve Friend and Steve Baker on this, because again, Steve Baker's another one of those people, by the way. When I was saying people, there aren't many people that have done more coverage of J6. Steve Baker's definitely one of those people. So I want to make sure to give him props there. But okay, so this story is absolutely bonkers. So let's go back to Just the News, okay? Because Just the News has some decent reporting on this. So again, I want to reiterate. Oh, not sharing that tab. I want to reiterate. The Bureau obtained no new evidence or tips, meaning they've had this since before the Kash Patel regime, probably back to January of 2021 when they did all this. So they analyzed credit cards, purchases, and bank records. So they had this information. They had credit cards and bank records. But if you read the report that they outlined, me and Alpha read it on SitRep on Thursday night, and I think we read some of it on Friday's Badlands Daily. But if you go back, they had the cell phone data too. So this guy's cell phone data was pinging on the same route at the same time that this guy was walking along on the CCTV footage. Like, what more did the FBI need to pursue this man? You've got, let's see, you've got his cell phone. Hey, look, this guy's walking across here at 8:54 or 7:54 p.m. Hey, look, this guy's cell phone data, this other guy, completely separate guy, his cell phone data at 7:54 p.m. says that he's right next to him. But it's funny, in the video, there's only one guy. Maybe they're the same guy. No, they can't be the same guy. This is a black, short, autistic guy that lives in his mom's basement. That is a highly trained professional that's evaded the world's foremost law enforcement agency for 5 years. They can't be the same guy. The autistic 30-year-old black guy living in his mom's basement, that guy would get caught in 2 seconds because he'd do dumb shit like bring his cell phone when he went to go plant the bomb or make the purchases on credit cards. Can't be that guy. Do you guys, like, I know I'm being totally facetious here, but do you not understand how stupidly retarded this is? This guy evaded the FBI for 5 fucking years. This was the whole narrative of January 6th. This is what enabled January 6th to happen. You know, Thomas Massey says that there was trucks en route with hundreds more barricades to put up around the Capitol to help reinforce the Capitol, right? To help reinforce the perimeter of the Capitol. Oh, but guess what? Those barricades couldn't make it through the police block that was set up, the cordon that was set up around these bombs. Shocking how that happens. And then how many of those officers that were on duty at the Capitol got called away to go set up the cordon around the pipe bombs at 2 different locations, separate locations? It's a lot of officers, a lot of logistics that had to be moved around, personnel that had to be diverted. And so they were short-staffed at the Capitol, which allowed people to just walk in. Yeah. They got the guy's license plate. They got the license plate at the crime scene or in the area. Pissed off cat says he's a patsy. I don't know that he is a patsy. And I'll explain that in a second. He might have actually been the person that did it. But he was not. I don't think he did this on his own. So here's the thing that's really interesting about this. And me and Alpha were talking about this on Thursday night. This guy has he was buying these pipes, 1-inch by 8-inch pipes, and somehow the credit card statements get itemized purchases. Okay, fair enough. It's weird. It's weird. Somebody had told me that his wife showed him how you can do it. And so, okay, fair enough. Maybe they can look at your credit card purchase statements and be able to get itemized numbers all the way back like 2 years. My friend Cody Austin, Moose's dad. Moose is like the greatest freaking dog ever. I love that dog. He messaged me the other day and said that his friend that works in, let me read this. Let me read this. This is worth it because saying that these purchases come all the way back from 2019 does not make much sense. He said, so when I left, it was like 90 days at a low risk store, meaning that they retained the records, purchase records, surveillance, like all the data for 90 days. Depending on the threat level of the store, the Phoenix stores had videos stored for like 9 months. While I was at Home Depot from 2004 to 2019, we had switched camera systems like twice. Video storage is all based off of how big your server is and how much it can hold. From my friend who did asset protection for Home Depot for many years, I don't believe there's any way that they could have gotten a video from 5 years ago. You probably get a lot of messages. Okay, so anyways. So they didn't get new evidence, so they had all this. So is it possible that they got this stuff from if in 2021, is it possible that they got purchase receipts and stuff from 2019? Yeah, sure. It's possible. That's not the crazy part to me. Here's the crazy part to me. Let me pull this back up on the other way right there. So this guy is buying things to make pipe bombs in 2019 and 2020. I think it was like June of 2020, November of 2020, and I think June of 2019. He's buying these things that are allegedly being used to make pipe bombs. He buys the pipes, he buys the end caps, he buys some steel wool as like an igniter, which, by the way, there's many better ways to ignite than steel wool, but fair enough. He buys some wire, he buys the 2 clocks, the 2, egg timers, 60-minute egg timers. Okay. This guy's a recluse, lives in the suburbs. His neighbors keep tabs on him and everything else. You're telling me for this many years or for this amount of time, this guy has been kind of planning this, and by the way, I'm not saying he's planning J6. I'm saying he's planning on making pipe bombs for whatever reason. You're telling me this guy's never once tried to detonate them? There's no records of anybody complaining about him detonating pipe bombs, going out in the woods and blowing shit up. Usually there's some sort of a history here. Oh, but they weren't actually viable pipe bombs. Remember, they had black powder-like components, the components of black powder. Remember, they only had the components. They didn't have the actual black powder. They were not viable pipe bombs. And this is something Bongino knows, so I'm a little disappointed in this because he knows that these devices likely came from some sort of a 3-letter agency's training arsenal. But now all of a sudden they're viable pipe bombs. He planted them. He's been planning this for 3 years. He even was planning it before anybody knew about J6 by buying them in November of 2020. J6 wasn't a thing until December 18th when President Trump said, let's go to the Capitol and make our voices heard. So there you go. None of this makes fucking sense. None of it. None of it. And the timing of this is all surrounding this U.S. Capitol police officer who was accused by Baker and the Blaze, or not accused, but, they put out evidence that it was her, the gate analysis, the proximity to the guy whose actual Metro card was used following J6. They just happen to be next door neighbors. Go figure. And oh, by the way, she's also the U.S. Capitol police officer that was firing pepper balls, frozen pepper balls, expired pepper balls that were doing actual damage as if they were 68 caliber rounds fired at 450 feet per second because they did not disintegrate because they were expired and frozen. It was very cold that day. I remember very vividly how cold it was in D.C. on that day. She's up there in the rafters shooting down. She's the training officer for that type of stuff. And she's up there popping away. She lives next door to the guy whose Metro card was used as the egress to escape. Kyle Seraphin, as an FBI agent, is put on that guy's house to surveil it. And when he says, hey, let's go make contact with this guy, they say, no, do not make contact. And oh, by the way, you're off the case. Get out of there. That day, they removed him from surveilling that guy's apartment next door to the U.S. Capitol police officer. And oh, by the way, where is that Capitol police officer working now? A little 3-letter agency known as the CIA. But it's totally the 30-year-old black autist living in his mom's basement in Virginia. Totally him, guys. This is... It's totally him because he confessed. Here it is. Fox News. D.C. pipe bomb suspect admitted to planting the devices, expressed doubts about 2020 election outcome. Nobody is saying that this guy is MAGA, by the way. His dad runs a bail bonds company that is freeing illegal immigrants from ICE. But he's totally an election-denying MAGA Republican now. The accused D.C. pipe bomber has been speaking with investigators for hours, admitting he planted the devices and expressing doubts about the outcome of the 2020 presidential election, says a source close to the investigation. Okay. The explosive devices were placed near the Republican and National and DNC committee, whatever. Brian Cole Jr. is scheduled to make a federal court appearance later Friday for a first appearance before a magistrate. Now, Cara Castronovo was at that hearing for Lindell TV, and she put out a video 9 minutes long. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Kara Castronova, she's a colleague over at Gateway. She does great work on J6. She's in DC, so she's sat through a lot of these cases, and she's been in the courtroom. Tremendous source on all things J6. So check her out. A second source tells Fox News that the suspect's possible motivation is just one piece of information developed early in an active, ongoing investigation. But the suspect's statements about the 2020 election and his apparent support for President Donald Trump may offer a hint at a possible motive. Fox News, you are so garbage. You are so garbage. MAGA Republicans. MAGA Republicans. MAGA Republicans. This story absolutely reeks. Absolutely reeks. One thing Kara Castronova did say during that arraignment was that the family, she said, genuinely looked absolutely shocked. Like they had no idea. No idea. Same thing with him, that he looked, autistic. Okay. I mean, I don't believe any of this. Now, do I think he planted the bombs? Very well could have. Very well could have. Did he act on his own? Absolutely not. I don't think there's any possible chance this guy acted on his own. I want to go through this thread here. This was put out by Travis Hawley. The FBI's arrested Brian Cole Jr. of Woodbridge, Virginia for the pipe bomb incident. Let's do some open source OSINT, open source intelligence, using publicly available information to uncover the digital breadcrumbs of this suspect who is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And I want to scroll down. This is all, the pictures of him and everything. These are some of his email addresses, and that's going to be relevant because it's going to be used to identify accounts that he's signed up for. Interestingly, his email, Cole, Brian, and then they have a little redacted part for his personal PII, has been deleted entirely and has not been logged into since March 27th of 2023. Looking at the breached dark web information, only partially redacted due to public interest, shows a pattern of patriotic USA, Patriotism, America, and military-like Delta One passwords and usernames across the web. And then this is the craziest one. I am hot for the number 4, COCK. I'll let you guys spell that out. I_am_hot_4_COCK appears to have been his username associated to his email, Cole Brian, redacted, at gmail.com, that was involved in the 2016 hacking of the Adult Friend Finder sex and swingers hookup site. So 9 years ago, when this guy was 21, he was apparently hot for male chickens. And he went on Adult Friend Finder's site to try and find male chickens because he was hot for male chickens. Brian Cole has at least 2 accounts on Gaia Online, an anime-themed social networking and forum-based website launched in 2003. Jump down here. And this totally, by the way, guys, this totally looks like a real alpha male guy right here. This guy is totally an alpha male MAGA Republican playing with anime, hot for cock. Yeah, I said it, whatever. Yeah, totally MAGA right there, guys. Gaia Online. The suspect appears to be an avid gamer. His emails are registered to various games accounts, including Evany, Next Gen, Game Tuts, Gaia Online, EA, MPGH, Game Cheats, etc. These are the avatars. Look at that. That's totally a MAGA avatar right there. Totally a MAGA avatar right there. Evany kind of looks like League of Legends. I play League of Legends. I like League of Legends. But it's nothing like this game at all. At all. It's yeah. I was able to acquire 5 older IP addresses associated. Okay, whatever. Skip through that. Brian Cole was looking for pen pals online sometime before 2015 when his account was part of a data breach. He's clearly an avid gamer and into things like fantasy and anime. He had an account with Dueling Network, which is a Yu-Gi-Oh simulator. He's been using the Delta moniker across gaming websites for over a decade. On June 9th, 2012, he created the Twitter account Revivalist for USA. Appears crime runs in his family, and then got a whole bunch of driving violations right here. Not crime. You know, I'm not worried about this guy got rolled up. I guess it's his brother. Yeah, his brother got rolled up for some marijuana charges and stuff. That's no big deal to me. Now, his dad is a little interesting. His father, James Jerome Cole, 13 years ago on YouTube, was talking about being a bail agent. His father appears to be, maybe ironically, the president of Free U Bail Bonds. His father's email is registered to the following 83 bail bond domains. Now, here's where it gets interesting. According to open sources, his father had or has a 2019 federal tax lien of $266,000. Another one for $48,000. This is the key right here, I think. I think this is the key. These bail bonds things. Another tip for $30,900. Or another tip, another tax hold. That was in 2015, and $48,000 in 2016, and then $266,000 in 2019. So here's what I think happens, and this is just my opinion. He very well may have planted these bombs, these fake bombs. He might have done it. But I think he was groomed in these gaming chat rooms. If you need to see how that works, go check out BX on X's work. It's ironic mentioning BX and Kyle because they butt heads like crazy over all this. But go check out BX on X's work. She does phenomenal work on Order of 9 Angles, 764, and all that stuff. And then think about this. What if Brian Cole Jr. was groomed to do this? He was told that if you do this, your father's tax liens will go away. And by the way, you will never get caught. You won't get caught. Because how else do you explain the world's foremost law enforcement agency being like, yeah, it's totally not the guy whose cell phone was tracked along the same exact path that we have the closed circuit television footage from? Totally wasn't that guy. The 30-year-old autist black man living in his mom's basement was able to dodge the FBI in the largest FBI operation conducted on American soil, by the way. The J6 rollout, I mean, they were pulling people in Alaska off of pedophiles to go after J6ers. They were pulling people off of child sex crimes to go after people who were waved into the Capitol and walked around. But the guy that planted bombs where Kamala Harris, the vice president-elect, was in the building and had Secret Service walking around with bomb dogs that would have picked this up, totally didn't pick it up. Guys, this story is the worst psyop in the history of this country. Mark my words on this. This arrest right here. Now, granted, there could be a lot more that comes out on it. And I really hope that Cash and Bongino go all the way on this. Don't puss out on this, guys. Go all the way on this. Because if that's the case, the last 4 years of the FBI lying to us about this and using this narrative to go after thousands of American citizens, they're corrupt beyond repair. It cannot be fixed. It cannot be fixed if this is true, if this is what happened. If they had everything on this guy and chose not to go after it. This is the biggest story out right now, guys. You know, I think it was on OnlyLands a couple of weeks ago or whatever, and John was like, why are you so fascinated by the pipe bomb story? This is why. Because it's been an absurd idea that they couldn't get this guy. When you had him on the park bench checking his cell phone and somehow they tell us that AT&T, remember, the FBI lied to us. Christopher Wray, Jill Sanborn, all these people lied to us and told us that guy, his cell phone data was corrupted. AT&T told them it was corrupted. AT&T said, we never said any such thing. But they lied to us and told us it was corrupted. What else have they lied about? How's Ray Epps doing? Remember the New York Times piece where they came out and said, oh, he whispered into Ryan Samsel's ear, they're just trying to do their jobs. That's a lie. It's clear as day on the video. He says, we need more people. But the FBI came out, or excuse me, the New York Times came out and said, we interviewed Ryan Samsel, or we heard the tapes where Ryan Samsel said, oh, Ray Epps just whispered in my ear, hey, they're just trying to do their jobs. Give them a break. Go up there and tell them thank you for your service. You guys are the best. No, he whispered in Ryan Samsel's ear, the backwards MAGA hat guy, we need more people. And then Ryan Samsel got in through the gate and went over and helped the cop that got knocked down. He didn't push it. Well, he did kind of push it. He went and tried to help the officer. But what else have they been lying to us, right? Guys, J6, man, 2020 election, J6, it all goes hand in hand. COVID, all of it. All of it. All right, I spent a lot of time on this, and I did not plan on spending that much time on that. But, man, that is such an important story. That is such an important story, guys. All right, let's jump into this one here. From AP, Admiral says there was no kill them all order in the boat attack, but video alarms lawmakers. I'm going to show you guys in this segment, I'm going to show you guys what I told you in the beginning, why President Trump is doing the only thing that can be done to stop the drug trafficking through these boats. Now, Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley, a JSOC admiral, Joint Special Operations Command. I think he was he's a SEAL. I don't know if he was DevGru or not, SEAL Team 6. I think it said he was. But he's commanding the U.S. military strikes on the drug boats in the Caribbean, however you pronounce it. Today, it told lawmakers that there was, quote, no kill them all order from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. And this is something I pointed out on Daily as well. They call him Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. And technically, that's incorrect. He's War Secretary or Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. But I do actually get along with the nomer here that he's Defense Secretary. It's a misnomer, but I get along with it because this is the first action that our military has taken kinetically, meaning bombs, guns, all that stuff that they've taken in my lifetime, I think, to actually protect the homeland directly. These drugs are a direct threat. Scratch that. These chemical weapons are a direct threat to the U.S. homeland, more so than anything we did in Iraq, more so than anything I did in Afghanistan, by a lot. So he is the defense secretary in this regard. Quote, Bradley was very clear that he was given no such order to give no quarter or to kill them all, says Senator Tom Cotton. Ugh. Why do they have to go with the number one AIPAC recipient in Congress, in the Senate? I think he's number one. Ted Cruz might be number one, but Tom Cotton's up there, who heads the Senate Intelligence Committee. Go figure. It's almost like AIPAC owns our intelligence committees. Democrats questioned the Trump administration's rationale and said the incident was deeply concerning. Quote, the order was basically destroy the drugs, kill the 11 people on the boat, says Representative Adam Smith, the top Democrat in the House Armed Services Committee. Yeah, absolutely. Destroy the drugs, kill the people. You can't destroy the drugs unless you kill the people. So you're either going to kill 11 people there or you're going to allow the drugs to make it to the ships and potentially kill thousands of people, Americans. I mean, it sucks. And they should probably heed the warning after the first 2 or 3 strikes. And now we're on like strike number 20. But take the advice. Take the advice. Fuck around and find out. They're on that part. President Trump was oh so concerned about this that while that hearing was going on, he ran another strike. Now, I want you to look at this boat. All right. I can't zoom in. I'll make it full screen on here. It makes it a little better. But you see, and you can't see my mouse, but you see the crosshairs that they have on the Reaper camera, like right where the 3M is. You can see this boat is loaded for bear. It's got stuff all throughout it, containers, whatever the case might be, all throughout it. Just keep that in your mind. So President Trump goes out there and is like, yeah, we're going to do this thing. Boom. While the hearing is going on, like hopefully there were no cell phones. Closed door with a JSOC commander, admiral. Hopefully there was no cell phones. But if there were, their cell phones all were going and pinging. President Trump just struck another drug boat. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? They're freaking out. This is illegal. He doesn't have the authority to do this. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. He absolutely does. So let's play this video. And this is put out by an absolute simp for these I don't know, these acts. OSINT Defender on X puts out this video. And before we play the video, let's not play the video yet. Hey, stop it. Let's read what he says. Footage published by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security showing the interdiction Tuesday of a cartel narco trafficking vessel containing 20,000 pounds of cocaine in the Eastern Pacific by an MH-65E Dolphin with the U.S. Coast Guard's helicopter interdiction tactical squadron HITRON attached to the Legend-class cutter U.S. Coast Guard cutter Monroe, M-U-N-R-O, not Monroe like the Monroe Doctrine, but Monroe. In the video, a sniper on board the MH-65E uses a Barrett M8250, we call it a Sasser, anti-material rifle, because anything it hits, it takes the material out of it. It's a great weapon. I've shot a couple of those. To disable the motor on the fast boat before a Coast Guard special purpose craft from the Monroe boards and seizes the vessel as part of Operation Pacific Viper. Now, here's the thing. I've told you guys many, many times that the way these drug interdictions at sea work is not efficient. And the reason for that is because they just dump the product. They dump it. They throw it overboard. And what they do is they take these salt blocks, and they can use other things. I'm just going to use salt because it's easy. We all know how salt dissolves, right? So they take these salt blocks and they put a weight inside of the block, and they form the salt around this weight. And then they take string or rope, they wrap it around the salt, and they wrap it around the drugs. And if they get boarded, they throw it overboard, and it all sinks. Now, it doesn't go all the way down, because salt's buoyant or salt's not buoyant, excuse me. The drugs are buoyant in the package, but the salt and the weight pull it down, but it doesn't pull it all the way down. Eventually, the salt disintegrates. It dissolves. And then when it dissolves, the weight, which was made into the salt, not around the drugs, the weight sinks to the bottom of the ocean. It's gone forever. And the drugs float back up to the top. Like the barrels in Jaws, right? Remember the barrels when they come shooting up? They float back up. And they've got little GPS tracking devices sometimes. I don't know if they always do or not. They got little GPS tracking devices. And so you send out another boat that's completely empty. And they go and they pick them up. And then they take them to their final destination. You want proof that this is what happens? Check this out. Remember, they told us in the story that there was 20,000 pounds of cocaine on this boat. There is no volume. So here they are with the Sasser. Pretty badass, man. Coast Guard snipers are fucking legit. They are legit. I give Coasties a lot of shit, but their drug interdiction teams, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I considered joining the Coast Guard down here to do this. They're legit, man. Some badass dudes. Boom! Look at that shot. He's in a helicopter. And he's taking a precision shot with a 50 cal rifle. Now that rifle is incredible. So this rifle has a like a spring loaded barrel. So you think a 50 cal, there's going to be a lot of recoil on that. Nope. These things have very little recoil for a 50 cal. So here we go. All right, there we go. We're taking the shots. We're taking the motors out so that they can't run away. And then what happens? Now we've got this is the Dolphin over here. Apparently there's a drone aircraft ahead somewhere, or I don't know, maybe like a C-130 or something flying around. Here comes the interdiction boat. Here's the boat coming up to board it. Oh, what the fuck? Look at that boat. Anybody see something wrong with that boat right there? I'm waiting. Somebody's got to catch it. What's going on with that boat compared to the other one? Remember the other boat I showed you guys? Remember this boat? The one that got blown up? Oh, look at that. Look at all those drugs. Look at all those drugs on the front of that boat. Look at this boat. But look at that boat. That boat's completely empty. That boat is completely empty. Boat is completely empty, guys. But there's 20,000 pounds of cocaine on there. Yeah, job well done, U.S. Coast Guard. Let's keep funding this bullshit. Let's keep funding this. Let's keep, because this is doing the great work. We are stopping the drug trade. No, you're not. They're throwing it overboard. It's going to float back up. Somebody's going to come out and pick it up. It costs them a little bit more, sure. $100, $200 to save a couple million in drugs. That entire boat right there doesn't weigh 20,000 pounds. And they're saying there's 20,000 pounds of cocaine on that boat. And remember, guys, the Coast Guard, the cutter or the interdiction boat on the cutter is just now approaching it. It's not like they were already there and they're offloading it and loading it up and whatever the case might be. No, they disabled the boat and you can see right there, it is empty. It is empty. They dumped it. The only way to stop this is to blow them to hell. That's the only way. And you might be saying, like, look, what is that doing? I have new choices for memory cards. Why am I getting a notification that I have something plugged in? All right. So anyways, you might be saying like, oh, well, there's stuff back there. Yeah, that's fuel tanks, gas tanks, the cockpit, the steering mechanisms. When people tell you that, what President Trump is doing is dangerous and it's against the law and it's not, there's better ways to do this and all this stuff. It's not true. It's not true. President Trump is doing the best job right now at stopping this facet of the drug trade. Now, there are other ways. Land is much more difficult for them and much more easy for us to track and eliminate because you can just roll up on them. You can ambush them. You can't ambush somebody on the open seas. It's open. There's no cover. There's no concealment. You roll up in a helicopter and you take shots at the engine. Okay. Well, I'm watching the guys dump shit overboard. Okay. You're going to dive down and find it in the currents. People might think like it's like a lake, like you throw it overboard and okay, you just dive right under the boat. Fuck no. That shit's the current takes that miles away in a matter of minutes. It's gone. It's gone. You'll never find it. And so what do you do? Well, we're going to charge them with driving a boat with nothing on it. So they get a slap on the wrist and they go back to Colombia, Venezuela. They want us to think it's Venezuela. It's mostly Colombia, Guyana, some of these other countries. They go back there and done deal. So this is like, I want to stress this because this is why our politicians are freaking out about this. The CIA is running the drug trafficking operations in South America for decades. They've been running this. Operation Condor, Northwood. They've been running this regime change coups. We're watching one right now. We are watching one right now. And it's fascinating because as they get more and more desperate, they have to do more and more desperate things. And so what are they doing now? They're putting it out there in the open. President Trump, people think President Trump, I personally don't think that President Trump is I think there's a lot of kayfabe with the Maduro stuff, and we're going to get into that here. Is that next? Yeah, that's next. No, it's not next. So let me hold this. CIA is taking out the competition. CIA is its own competition. There is no competition for the CIA. The CIA competition is President Trump and the Hellfire drones that are taking out their drug runs. That's the competition, ladies and gentlemen. The CIA. Yeah. Anyways, you know what? Let's go ahead and do a sponsor. I haven't done a sponsor yet. Let's do a sponsor, guys. How about this one? Because I love this one. This one's one of my favorite, guys. Let's be clear. Cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's here. And this latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with a B with Crypto.com, the world's top crypto platform. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards, and real-world perks like cashback on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. And when it's done, this company will be the biggest CRO holder out there. You want in on the action? Head to Crypto.com today and grab some CRO, and let's make crypto great again. All right. I love me some crypto. I do. Who loves orange soda? Kel loves orange soda. I do. Anybody know what that's from? Growing up as a kid, that was awesome, man. Keenan and Kel, baby. Keenan and Kel. All right, let's keep going. Hey, and there's Dawn with the mypillow.com promo code CanCon. Absolutely. Get over there, get your holiday shopping done. Support Mike Lindell and the fine folks at MyPillow, the great American-owned business in Minnesota. I know there's a lot of corruption up there, but Mike Lindell, hey, he might be running for governor up there to take out the retard Tim Walz. Did you hear Tim Walz over the weekend or this week? People keep driving by my house and calling me the R word. Just say retard. Just say it. Who cares? Told you guys before, it's an insult to use the word retard to describe a mentally handicapped individual who is not capable of higher level of thought, when retard literally means to stop somebody from being able to do something that they should be capable of doing. Fire retardant stops a fire from starting when otherwise it would be capable of starting. So using the word retard and saying it's a derogatory term for a mentally handicapped person is retarded. A retard is somebody like Tim Walz, who is, in fact, capable of intellectual thought. Maybe. So we're taking it back. We are taking it back. And I don't care if YouTube bans me for saying that. Won't be the first time. All right, let's jump into this story here. Again, this will be a quick one because we've talked about this so much. SignalGate reports find Hegseth potentially put U.S. forces at risk. Again, I think this is the stupidest story. This is a rehash. The CIA is getting desperate. You're seeing Slotkin out there. You're seeing all these people out there doing this stuff. Slotkin. We'll get into the other stuff. I hate disparaging people in this movement, but sometimes it's got to happen, guys. Sometimes it's got to happen. So they're getting desperate when the drug boat thing doesn't work and the seditious six doesn't work. They bring up old stuff. And here's the thing with this story is, so we go back to March, I think it was, when Hegseth was bombing the Houthis, and he was in that chat group, and Jeff Goldberg, the Atlantic editor-in-chief, infiltrated that Signal chat, and we got Goldberg's chat, right? Goldberg published his screenshots of the chat, and Hegseth has been exonerated. There was nothing classified in there. He didn't he didn't do anything wrong. The IG report that they're citing here cleared him. Now, I do want to point this out, and I've talked about this a couple times now, but this is the CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. I hate the fact that they say security twice, but they can't say Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency because then it's CIA, and that one's already taken. But CISA put this out in December of 2024. December of 2024. Mobile communications best practice guidelines. So this was a month before President Trump took office and a month after President Trump won the office. Let's read this. While applicable to all audiences, this guidance specifically addresses highly targeted individuals who are in senior government or senior political positions and likely to possess information of interest to these threat actors. CISA is releasing this best practice guidance to promote protections for mobile communications from exploitation by PRC affiliated and other malicious cyber actors. Okay. So this, just to be clear, this is the agency that would issue the type of guidance to administration officials, highly targeted administration officials. That would be your cabinet chiefs, right? Your secretary of state, secretary of war, HUD, commerce, transportation, all your top level security secretaries. And then probably underneath them, obviously your FBI director, CIA director, ODNI, whole bunch of bureaucrats. This is telling them how to communicate to avoid PRC infiltration. General recommendations. Apply these best practices to your devices and online accounts. Number one, the most important numero uno, use only end-to-end encrypted communications. Only end-to-end encrypted communications. Adopt a free messaging application. And I said this on Friday or Thursday when I read this, and I cannot stress this enough. If something is free, and this is completely and totally reckless by CISA to do this. If something is free, you are the product. Let me say that again. If something is free, you are the product. Your information, your attention, your data, that is the product. Rumble, unless you're paying for premium, Rumble is free. Why? Because they're going to show you ads. They're going to show you advertisements. If it's premium and you pay for it, there's no longer advertisements. Why? Because you're not the product anymore. If something is free, you are the product. Adopt a free messaging application for secure communications that guarantees end-to-end encryption, such as, what's that word right there? Let me zoom all the way in on this word so we make sure that we understand what they're saying right here. Such as Signal or similar apps. Signal or similar apps. CISA recommends an end-to-end encrypted messaging app that is compatible with both iPhone and Android operating systems, allowing for text message interoperability across platforms. These apps typically support one-to-one text chats, group chats with up to 1,000 participants, and encrypted voice and audio calls. So the same people that are freaking out and saying Hegseth needs to resign, he did this all illegally, Signal, he used an unsecured app. CISA themselves said that Signal is a secure application for this. Now, here's the crazy part. And I try and look at things. And you know what's funny about this is yesterday on Badlands Daily, Chris Paul had the same take as me. And fortunately, I put my take on X before Daily. And so I was able to show him, hey, I had the same exact take as you, dude. I want to see the Signal group screenshots that Jeff Goldberg, the Atlantic Council editor-in-chief, deep state through and through, CIA adjacent through and through, deep state to the core, the Atlantic. I want to see what Jeff Goldberg's name appeared as in the chat for everybody else. I want to see When Jeff Goldberg entered the chat, I want to see what Hegseth saw, what Rubio saw, what Mike Waltz, NSA at the time, what he saw. I want to see what all of these people saw. I want to know who invited him into the chat in the first place. And I want to know how this happened. Now, it is not lost on me that this could have been planned, right? CISA comes out and says, make sure you're using Signal, explicitly named Signal. There's been a lot of WhatsApp stuff in the Biden administration, but they specifically said to use Signal after President Trump was elected. Why? Well, if you guys are using Signal and we have somebody like Catherine Mayer on the board for Signal, the Signal Foundation, maybe they have back doors in and they can monitor what's being said in there. And then they get something like this and they're like, oh shit. Well, how do we say that we were spying on Hegseth and Hegseth potentially disclosed classified information? How do we get him with this? Well, if we disclose that we're spying on Signal, then our whole thing is done. Our whole operation is done. So how do we expose this? Oh, let's just say they accidentally added Jeff Goldberg of the Atlantic Council. What? They accidentally added the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic. They were going through and they're like, hey, who's the Secretary of Defense? Pete Hegseth. Okay, add him. Who's the Secretary of State? Marco Rubio. Okay, add him. Who's Jeff Goldberg? I don't know. Sounds like a good name. Just add him too. But they won't tell us. Nobody will disclose how Jeff Goldberg made it into that chat group. But meanwhile, you've got one of the chairmen of the board of directors for the Signal Foundation is Catherine Mayer, who's the CEO of NPR, National Public Radio, USAID, anyone? She's UNICEF, World Bank, IMF. Like, let me pull up her credentials so you can see just how deep state this woman actually is. I was looking it up the other day, so it should be in my history. Search Catherine. There it is. There it is. All right. Share this tab instead. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. The woman you were thinking of. No. There it is. Here it is. Catherine Mayer, who worked for the National Democratic Institute, the NDI, a U.S. government-funded NGO with historical ties to his intelligence operations and involvement in color revolutions involving including the Arab Spring in Tunisia and Libya. He also held roles at UNICEF, the World Bank, Access Now, the Atlantic Council, and served as the U.S. State Department's Foreign Affairs Policy Board. Yeah, she totally couldn't have made a backdoor or been aware of a backdoor into Signal. So tell us, how did Jeff Goldberg get in that chat? Somebody want to tell us? Anybody? Anybody? No? Okay. All right. I hope this is a good show so far. You guys enjoying this? Smash that thumbs up if you guys are enjoying this and you guys like the morning weekend reviews. Guys, hit that thumbs up. So we get a lot of credit here on Rumble if you are a new chatter. So if you guys are lurking in the background, I see there's almost 500 people watching live. So if you guys are lurking in the background, please jump in the chat and just say hello. I'm going to hang out for a minute. I gotta cool my jets before we segue into the next story. We're going to talk about Venezuela and Maduro now. I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed last night. We were supposed to have, I'm not going to name names. We were supposed to have somebody very prominent in the election integrity movement and somebody that's name has been out front and center over the last couple of days. Most of you guys already know who I'm talking about. I don't need to say it, but they were supposed to be joining me and Ash yesterday on Why We Vote and literally canceled as the intro was rolling. Yeah. They had confirmed with us twice Ash confirmed twice with them. Thank you guys for RK Kitchens. Our Kitchens. Hi from Chicago. Good to see you. Caveman Matt. Howdy. Good to see you. Flying Storm. Always good to see you. Cat Shiner lurking. Hello, all. Carol He. Good morning, Brian. Thank you. Love me some morning, Brian. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody that I actually like know personally, like down here, I know some of my friends listen, and I'm wondering, do I have any friends out there? Just if I do, let me know if I got like any personal friends. So yeah, so this individual was supposed to be on with us last night, and canceled. We confirmed with him twice. Hold on one second. I got to check a text real quick. Okay, apologize. Yeah, so and like 5 minutes before we went live, we got a message from his booking agent, I guess, and we were interacting directly with him. You know, he had said, "Hey, I follow both of them. They follow me on X. Let's reach out and get hooked up here." Florida Angler 41. I'm an old friend, Lupo. Hey, well, good to see you, Florida Angler 41. Anyways, so yeah, his booking agent reached out and is like, "We don't have the link. Can you send it?" And this is 5 minutes before the show. So at that point, still going, right? 5 minutes before the show, if they're reaching out panicked about not having a link, we send it to them. And then as the intro's rolling, like literally a minute 53-second intro, I managed to pivot from that interview, call Harrison Floyd or text Harrison Floyd and be like, "Hey, dude, so insider baseball here. Me and Ash were going to interview Harrison Floyd at 5 p.m. on my channel before. Did not get to do that because he was a little bit late. We had gotten a confusion. He thought the times were changed, whatever. And so we ended up deciding we were going to do it after Why We Vote. So we were going to pre-record after Why We Vote, Ash and I. And of course, I texted him. I'm like, "Hey, emergency, can you come on?" And he was awesome. Harrison Floyd is a badass. I absolutely love that guy. Hey, Bali, there we go. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, he's absolutely great. Yeah. Semper Fi. That's what I was to Bali. He was great. Check it out. I'm going to put it up here probably tomorrow. I'm going to play it on here. And so I'm just really bummed because I got questions, man. And you know, I think most of you who have watched me for a while know that I'm very respectful. I'm always going to be respectful. You know, I'm not going to like try. I'm not going to try and got you. I want to have a discussion. I understand. And you know, if I totally understand that I don't know everything. I mean, that'd be absurd to think that I know everything. I'm probably wrong about a lot of things. Of course, don't ask my wife that. But I'm willing to have that discussion and see what I'm wrong about and let you go deeper. But, you know, there's too many people out there. There's too many people out there that just, they want to hear what they want to hear, right? They're like, "Oh, this guy's saying all the things I want to hear. He's exactly right." Is he? Is he exactly right? And I'm not saying, I'm not talking about this guy specifically. I'm talking about somebody else. This is not, we'll just throw names out there. We are not talking about Patrick Byrne on this. I'm talking about somebody else. And everybody is like, "Oh, this guy's great. Listen to him." And I'm like, he's wrong. He's right on some things. He's wrong on just about everything else. And it's verifiably wrong. But apparently, after 5 years of all the shit that we've gone through in MAGA, 10 years if you've been here the whole time, apparently we haven't learned a damn thing. Case in point, the CIA is not your friend. They might do great things. They give zero fucks about you. There are some that will do the right thing because it's the right thing, but they're not doing it because of you. They're not doing it because of MAGA. They're doing it because of their own self-interest as an association, as an organization. And we don't have discernment. Like, we're like, oh, that guy's CIA, you can't trust him. But now all of a sudden they're saying things we want to hear, we trust him. Trust this guy. When you could do your own research and find out that it's mostly wrong. All right. Enough of me ranting. I hate doing that because I'm a pacifist, man. I'm a love everybody kind of guy. So let's jump into this story because everybody's been talking about this story. The Dallas Express, former Maduro spy chief letter to Trump seeks to expose narco-terrorist war against the United States. And let's just read the letter. This is from Hugo Carvajal Barrios to President Donald J. Trump. My name's Hugo Barrios. For many years, I was a high-ranking member of the Venezuelan regime. I was a 3-star general trusted by Chavez and Maduro and served as the director of military intelligence. Once again, let's trust the spooks, guys. Trust the spooks. The spooks would never lie to us. Literally, they run their... And to be fair, I'm not saying that they aren't telling the truth or that they are always lying. I'm telling you that their job is psychological operations. Their job is distraction, diversion. It's to put you off or to manipulate you into a position that they want you to be in. That is what spies do. This is their job. It's their tradecraft. It's what they do. And I don't understand how people are just like, oh, I trust the CIA guy. Okay. I trust the director of military intelligence for Venezuela. I trust that guy. Maduro served as the director, Carvajal served as the director of military intelligence and as deputy in the National Assembly. Today, I sit in my American prison because I voluntarily pled guilty to the crimes charged against me. After you tried to hide in Spain for 3 years and then fought it tooth and nail to avoid extradition. But yeah, you totally volunteered your plea deal. Totally. A narco-terrorism conspiracy. I write to atone by telling the full truth so that the United States can protect itself from the dangers. Imagine a fucking spy telling you, I am atoning by telling the full truth. You guys got to believe me this time. It's the full truth so that the United States can protect itself from the dangers I witnessed for so many years. I publicly broke with Maduro regime in 2017 and fled my country. Why do you think he broke with Maduro in 2017? Who else broke with Venezuela in 2017? Who else broke with Maduro in 2017 with Venezuela? A little company called Smartmatic. Let's jump into this. And fled my country knowing that I faced criminal charges in the United States. In doing so, I became their enemy. Knowing the risks, I acted with the strongest conviction to dismantle Maduro's criminal regime and bring freedom to my country. Today, I see the need to address the American people about the reality of what the Venezuela regime truly is and why President Trump's policies are not only correct, but absolutely necessary to the United States national security. Narco-terrorism. I personally witnessed how Hugo Chavez's government became a criminal organization that is now run by Nicolas Maduro, Diosdado Cabello, and other senior regime officials. The purpose of this organization, known as the Cartel of the Suns, is to weaponize drugs against the United States. The drugs that reached your cities through new routes were not accidents of corruption, nor just the work of independent traffickers. They were deliberate policies coordinated by the Venezuelan regime against the United States. Guys, the Cartel de Sols was propped up by USAID's public safety. Okay? Decades ago, before Maduro, before Chavez. Cartel de los Soles, Cartel of the Suns, because they wear the suns on their uniform. That's what they tell us. Yeah, they don't have stars, they have suns, and like knowledge dropping. Like, we know this because we're so smart. I think that's so retarded. You guys know what I'm talking about. He's like, yeah, it's because they wear the suns on their uniform. I just think it's so stupid. I laugh my ass off when I see this. But they do that. They try and give you these little tidbits like that, so you feel like this person totally knows what they're talking about, and they're totally not trying to deceive us in any way, shape, or form. All right. This plan was suggested by the Cuban regime to Chavez in the mid-2000s and has been successfully executed with help from FARC, ELN, Cuban operatives, and Hezbollah. Got to throw in the Hezbollah, right? Everybody loves an Islamic terrorist regime. The regime has provided weapons, passports, and impunity for these terrorist organizations to operate freely from Venezuela against the United States. Tren de Aragua. I was present when decisions were made to organize and weaponize criminal gangs across Venezuela to protect the regime. Among them, the group known as Tren de Aragua. Chavez ordered the recruitment of criminal leaders inside and outside of prison to defend the revolution in exchange for impunity. After Chavez died, Maduro expanded this strategy by exporting criminality and chaos abroad to target Venezuelan political exiles and artificially reduce crime statistics within Venezuela. Gang leaders were instructed to send thousands of members. By the way, the director of military intelligence had absolutely nothing to do with any of this stuff. None of it. Gang leaders were instructed. But think of it this way. This guy would be the equivalent of John Brennan, CIA director. This guy's the director of military intelligence. This, he would be the equivalent of a spy chief. Does anybody here trust any spy chief? I don't. Not one. Not one. Not Ratcliffe, not Brennan, not General Flynn. None. Trust him? No. Listen to him? Discern? Absolutely. Absolutely. And more in line with General Flynn and Ratcliffe. Brennan can fuck all the way off. But now all of a sudden we're like, oh, we got to trust these guys. They would never lie to us. When Biden-Harris's open border policy became widely known, they seized the opportunity to send these operatives into the United States. They now have obedient armed personnel on American soil. To finance their operations, they were explicitly instructed to continue kidnapping, extorting, and killing. Every crime they commit on your soil is an act ordered by the regime. Counterintelligence and espionage against the United States. I was present when the Russian intelligence came to Caracas to propose to Hugo Chavez the tapping of submarine internet cables that connect most of South America and the Caribbean islands with the United States for the purpose of penetrating United States government communications. In 2015, I warned Maduro that allowing Russian intelligence to build and run a secret listening post on La Orquilla Island would one day invite American bombs. He ignored me. For 20 years, the Venezuelan regime sent spies into your country. Many are still there, some disguised as members of the Venezuelan opposition. Cuban intelligence showed me their networks inside your naval bases on the East Coast. They bragged about having sent thousands of spies over decades, some new career politicians. U.S. diplomats and CIA officers were paid to assist Chavez and Maduro in remaining in power. These Americans acted as spies for Cuba and Venezuela, and some remain active to this day. Number 4, Smartmatic and your elections. Smartmatic was born as an electoral tool of the Venezuelan regime, but soon derived into a tool to help keep the regime stay in power forever. I know this because I placed the head of IT of the National Electoral Council in his position, and he reported directly to me, so you were complicit. The Smartmatic system can be altered. This is a fact. Agreed. This technology was later exported abroad, including to the United States. No, it was started in the United States. Smartmatic was incorporated in 2000 in Delaware by Venezuelans and headquartered in Boca Raton, Florida by Venezuelans. Now, where the Venezuelan influence directly comes in is from BizDa R&D. BizDa R&D is a Venezuelan-owned entity that I believe they have the Venezuelan government has a 28% stake, or had, I don't know about still, had a 28% stake and one seat on the board of BizDa, and they made the software for Smartmatic. So there is a lot of truth to the Venezuelan influence. But Smartmatic was incorporated in Delaware. It was headquartered in Florida, started by 3 Venezuelans who lived in America, and got a contract with Venezuela in 2004, the first contract to run their elections, and then ran them ever since. Got a whole bunch of contracts outside of there, sold to Sequoia in the United States, sold to Sequoia. Sequoia eventually sold to Dominion. Their intellectual property transferred throughout the entire process. They say it didn't. It did. It did. I've read the bankruptcy documents. I've read about the $1 million promissory note. I've read about the transfer of intellectual property. This is shit that I did in 2021. And now all of a sudden it's getting put out there because I don't know. because they're trying to instigate this war with Venezuela. And now all of a sudden we got to get this stuff back out there. Smartmatic. Let me finish reading this. I'm going to leave it right there. I do not claim that every election is stolen, but I state with certainty that elections can be rigged with the software and has been used to do so. I agree. People of the United States, make no mistake about the threat posed by allowing a narco-terrorist organization to roam freely in the Caribbean and throughout Latin America, doing everything possible to harm the American people, to finance Americanism across the continent, and to facilitate the operations of other terrorist organizations and enemies of the United States within Venezuela and now within your borders. The regime I served is not merely hostile, it is at war with you, using drugs, gangs, espionage, and even your own democratic processes as weapons. President Trump's policies against Maduro criminal regime are not just justified, but necessary and proportionate to the threat. He may even be underestimating what the regime is prepared to do to hold on to power. They have, guys, is anybody buying this? Where I was going with the Smartmatic thing. Smartmatic, again, incorporated in Delaware, headquartered in Florida. The founders are Venezuelan. They are Venezuelan. Bizta developed the software in Venezuela. Smartmatic employed that software. In 2004, Smartmatic got the contract to run the elections in Venezuela. From there, they grew. The Sequoia to Dominion, all the IP was transferred through bank records, through court records. You can see the transactions the whole way. I've read the entire thing. It was years ago, but I still remember all this. And fortunately, Ash and I were working on a documentary, and I still have all my notes from it. So I can go back and look at this stuff anytime I want. Smartmatic was taken over by globalists in 2012 and 2014 and left Venezuela in 2017 in its entirety. So when you have these CIA people coming out here and saying Smartmatic is headquartered in Caracas, no, it's not. And it never has been. It never has been. You might have been talking about Bizta, R&D, fair enough, but that's not Smartmatic. Smartmatic has been on U.S. soil. It's now a London-based company. London. The big banks. It's owned by SGO Core Limited, which is what used to be chaired by Lord Malik Brown. It's got Antonio Mujica, Roger Piñate, who's being prosecuted right now in Florida. And as of October, 2 months ago, SGO Corp Limited is named in that trial as a criminal defendant. Smartmatic is named as a criminal defendant in Florida. A London-based company taking bribes on trial in the Southern District of Florida. But sure, it's Venezuela, guys. It's Venezuela. Gotta get that regime change down there. This is a color revolution, and we are rooting for it. President Trump was just talking about the Monroe Doctrine, right? What the hell would be more Monroe Doctrine than us going in, or could be less Monroe Doctrine than us going in and overthrowing Maduro? Why? Because he's not agreeable to us. We want Maria Machado in there, the USAID Sumate woman. We want her in there. Meanwhile, they're covering for the globalists. They're covering for the Open Societies Foundation, Lord Malik Brown, the president of Open Societies Foundation, who's also on the board of SGO Core Limited. We're covering for that. We're covering for Sir Nigel Knowles, who is an oligarch, a British oligarch, David Giampaola, who is running an investment fund full of British oligarchs. He grew up 5 minutes from me in Cooper City, Florida. And he's an American citizen on the board that is running PI Capital, British oligarchs, an investment fund. So when they say that Venezuela is stealing, and this is why the interview didn't happen. I'm telling you right now, because when I ask, you're saying Venezuela is stealing elections in 72 countries. How? What company? Smartmatic? Well, that's owned by globalists. SGO Core owns Smartmatic now. Piñate and Mujica have a big share in it, but look what happened to Piñate. He's rolled up in the Southern District of Florida. He's probably going to go to prison in Florida. If you can't buy the guy out, then you just arrest him and lock him up. And now SGO Corps on that board as well. So who is this Hugo Carvajal guy? Let's jump into it. Now, granted, this is Wikipedia, but it's got a broad strokes, right? So Carvajal, we went over his director of military intelligence and all that stuff, right? Venezuela appointed Carvajal as its consul to Aruba in January of 2014. He was arrested in Aruba in July of 2014 on a U.S. arrest warrant. President Nicolas Maduro protested, saying that Carvajal had diplomatic immunity. Venezuela closed its airspace to planes coming from Aruba and Curacao for several hours. Maduro also threatened to slow business down at the Isla oil refinery in Curacao. Somebody said subsidiaries. Wayne's, so you mean like subsidiaries of Smartmatic? Yeah, sure. But which ones tie? I think that's what you're talking about. Which ones tie to Venezuela? Venezuela has nothing to do with Smartmatic anymore. They left. When Mujica got called out for fixing elections in 2017, when there was a battle between the CNE and Smartmatic over who made up 1 million voters in 2017, Smartmatic said, I'm taking my ball and I'm going back to London and I'm going to play with the globalist in London. Somebody name me a company. And this is why the interview didn't happen. I think this is why it didn't happen, because we would not have just sat there and let them tell us that the CIA is the good guys and that Venezuela is the bad guys, and ignore the fact that Smartmatic's, was started in America, started in Florida, incorporated in Delaware, now headquartered in London, Dominion's in Toronto, now sold to Liberty Vote. Yay, Dominion's now Liberty Vote. Like, President Trump is bombing the shit out of the cartel's drug trafficking operation right now, which is CIA dark money. Make no mistake. So the CIA is losing their funding. USAID, National Endowment, National Democracy Institute, all these entities have been cut their funding completely thanks to President Trump. So they're no longer getting the dark money. They're no longer getting the clean money through their NGOs. And they no longer have the control of regime change, or they're closing down on the control of the regime change. And so what do we need to do in order to ensure that? We need to color revolution Venezuela. This isn't even a hard one, guys. This isn't even a hard one. All right, so jump down here. Support for Guaido. On the 21st of February, 2019, during the Venezuelan presidential crises, Carvajal made a video in support of Juan Guaido as interim president of Venezuela and criticized Nicolas Maduro's presidency. Carvajal called for Venezuelan military forces to break ranks and allow the shipping of humanitarian aid to Venezuela. Where do you think that humanitarian aid was coming from? The United States, guys. The Guaido thing is fascinating. In 2019, Juan Guaido orchestrated or helped orchestrate the Bay of Piglets. The Bay of Piglets was a U.S. former special forces led operation to get defected Venezuelan soldiers and overthrow Maduro. It was a coup operation. And it got stopped because there was no funding behind it, and Guaido backed out after that. Carvajal is literally supporting an American operative, an American-aligned operative that was trying to overthrow the government. Carvajal is supporting him. The military intelligence guy. This is how color revolutions begin, folks. Guaido, putting him as interim president, he didn't even run for president. Guaido was not on the ballot in 2018 when they're talking about the controversial election right here. He was the head of the National Assembly. He just wanted to make himself president. And Carvajal backed that. And Maduro said, dude, what the you doing? Goes on to say Carvajal was arrested in Spain by local authorities in 2019 at the behest of the U.S. government. His extradition to the United States was to stand trial for drug trafficking and was not carried out after a Spanish court rejected the American request. Now, the one thing that's interesting is there was a certain interview last week or so where they called Spain Venezuela's bitch. So if Spain arrested Carvajal and Spain is Venezuela's bitch, Maduro's bitch, as we were told in that CIA guy's interview, why didn't Spain extradite Carvajal to Venezuela where Maduro could deal with him? I mean, that was the whole narrative, right? Was that Spain is beholden to Venezuela. That was literally one of the points that was made in that show. So why didn't they do that? I don't know. The denial was appealed and then overturned in 2019, but Carvajal had disappeared by that point. In September of 2021, he was arrested again by Spanish authorities after hiding out in Madrid for 2 years. His asylum claim was denied in October 2021, and his extradition was approved to go forward. The extradition was put on hold again after Carvajal appealed to the European Court of Human Rights. In July of 2023, the European Court of Human Rights denied his appeals request. Charges against Carvajal were filed in the U.S. He was extradited. Charges were filed in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, including cocaine importation and firearms-related charges. Carvajal pled guilty in June of 2025 to all charges with the possibility of sentencing of up to 50 years in life in prison. The delayed change in his plea, according to the BBC, quote, led to speculation he may have reached a deal for a lower sentence in exchange for providing incriminating information about the Maduro's government. Journalist Antonio Maria Delgado wrote in the Miami Herald that Carvajal claims to have evidence about Venezuela's involvement with Iran and Colombia's FARC, election tampering, espionage within the U.S., and Maduro's involvement with the gang Tren de Aragua as a paramilitary arm of the state. Guys, are you this isn't even a tough one. This isn't even a tough one. So we've got this CIA guy out there trying to tell us that we got to go to war with Venezuela. It's like the most important thing to stop Venezuela. They're stealing our elections through a company that nobody can name. Smartmatic. Okay, well, Smartmatic is based in London, owned by SGO Corp. The board is majority globalists, British American globalists. Mujica, Piñate, and I think what's his name? Alvarado. I don't even think he's on the board anymore. I think it's just Mujica and Piñate. They don't have a majority stake in the board. The advisement is all up to the oligarchs. And by the way, Piñate has no vote right now because he's indicted and awaiting trial in Florida. Okay, so that's gone. Venezuela's not manipulating elections throughout the world. Doesn't mean elections aren't being manipulated throughout the world. I want to be clear on that. There are half-truths in these arguments, I believe. There are half-truths in these arguments. Yes, elections are being manipulated, but it's by our own CIA. It's by MI6. It's by these intelligence agencies that do not want to give up control. That's my opinion. There's evidence to support that, but when you see somebody saying it's Venezuela and he's got former CIA next to his name, that's concerning. So what are the other claims that are being made here? Carvajal is a good guy and he's got all the dirt on them. Carvajal backed the U.S. guy, the U.S.-backed guy that tried to overthrow Maduro in a color revolution. Carvajal gave up his career to go with that guy. That guy cannot be trusted. You guys remember when President Trump just pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez? 45 years. He was sentenced to prison. Former Honduran president. What did Hernandez do in Honduras? Let's go back to the Josh Reed post. My colleague over at Badlands, great guy. Let's get back into his post and cover it this way. He says, have you ever dove into the case of Juan Orlando Hernandez? I actually have, Josh. Thank you for the pointing me in that direction. He extradited more traffickers than any leader in Latin America. he seized assets. He partnered with the DEA, Defense Intelligence Agency. No. He partnered with the DEA and targeted the same cartels the DOJ later claimed he secretly protected. Was he actually a cartel ally, or did powerful interests want him removed? When you understand that the intelligence runs these cartels, they run the trafficking. They run the trafficking. You fuck with their money, they come after you. After leaving office, Hernandez had accused political rivals, former security officials, and the incoming government of being influenced or controlled by drug trafficking interests. These accusations made him a direct threat to the same networks the U.S. claimed to help. Key witnesses against Hernandez were convicted drug traffickers testifying to reduced sentences, including Devis Leonel Rivera, Maridiaga of Los Cachiros, Alexander Chande Ardon, who also worked with the Sinaloa cartel, and Fabio Lobo, son of former Honduran president. Their testimony given under cooperation deals formed the core of the prosecution's case. Guys, let me tell you, when you look into Juan Orlando Hernandez, and feel free, I'll put the link to this. I'll put the link to this post in the chats. So there it is in the Rumble chat. Here it is in the YouTube chat, and here it is in the other YouTube chat. So there you go. You've got the link. Copy and paste what Josh Reed said. Plug it into Grok. Plug it into Perplexity. Plug it into some of these large language models and ask it to fact check. When you see that the case against Juan Orlando Hernandez was almost entirely dependent on the testimony of those three individuals, you got to say, that's really odd. No ledgers, no bank transfers, no firearms in his possession, no wiretaps, no nothing specifically pointed at Juan Orlando Hernandez. Nothing. I think there's one ledger that said like JOH next to a transfer, and it wasn't his handwriting. It wasn't even his handwriting. So what did the three people that testified against him get? Well, one of them, who's accused of being associated, convicted of being associated, that don't know what that means exactly, with 78 murders, he got 20 years off his sentence. And another one who was a former mayor of some city or county or whatever in Honduras, he was accused or convicted, of laundering like 400 tons of cocaine into the United States, and he was serving a life sentence. A life sentence. So what did he get for his testimony against Juan Orlando Hernandez? Time served. Time served. You go testify and we open the prison door and you are free to roam about the country. Time served. To put this guy in jail for 45 years, you exonerated a life sentence and gave him time served. This is a guy that went after cartels. And if you go back and look at, and Gordon breaks this down very well. But if you look at Maduro and some of the things that Maduro has done, it's not outright, right? He doesn't come out and say like straight up like, hey, this is what we're doing. He files a lawsuit in Florida. Bunch of corporations known, Glencore, Helsinki. What was the other one? Trafigura. Names these three corporations in this lawsuit. And from there, it gets dismissed. But guess what happens? Information is put out there. Those people end up getting rolled up. Corrupt individuals in those organizations end up getting rolled up. I'm not saying that he's a good guy. I'm not. I'm saying it's not our job to go to war with another country and regime change, period. End of conversation. Especially under false pretenses like they're fixing our elections. Somebody explained to me how Venezuela is fixing our elections. This is why the interview last night, in my opinion, this is why the interview did not happen. Because you can't sit down if you have a story with holes in it like this. You can't sit down with somebody that is going to push back. You have to let them tell your story, which is half truths. There is a lot of truth. I'm a big fan of his, but I don't know how we got from Well, I'll leave that at that. I'm a big fan. And like I said, I would be very nice, and we'll see if he comes back on. And I'm not, I'm open to me being wrong about all of this. I'm absolutely open to it. But let's have that discussion. Let's have that discussion. For a guy that's worth $50 million on his head, this is fascinating. Nicolas Maduro could end up in gas-rich Qatar under the Trump pressure as U.S. waste strikes in Venezuelan waters. U.S. officials are discussing allowing Venezuela's socialist strongman Nicolas Maduro to live out his days in luxury in one of the world's richest countries. A senior Trump administration source said that Marco Rubio has floated, allowing Maduro to relocate to Qatar. Oh, gotta love this. This is in Spanish, so I'll read it to you. How could I be a dictator? Oh. How could I be a dictator if I was not trained at the School of the Americas, at Harvard? I was not trained at Langley. I was not trained at West Point, the School of the Americas, or Harvard. I was trained in the high schools of Caracas, in the neighborhoods of El Valle, 23 de Enero, Katia, Propatria, El Cementerio. How could I be a dictator if I was not trained at the School of America? Right? You go and look at all these color revolutions, and the people that are in these revolutions that are the replacement regimes are always involved in our education. They're schooled over here. They're working for people over here. Let me see if I can find something real quick. Who's the guy? I can never remember his name. Hold on. Here it is. Mikhail Saakashvili. Does that name sound familiar? Let's do this dig. I want to show you guys how these color revolutions work. So let's play with what large language model do you guys want to play with? ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Grok? We're gonna play with this. We're gonna do a social experiment on how color revolutions are orchestrated and the kind of evidence around them that shows you that you're watching a color revolution. And don't worry, we're going to talk about Russia, Ukraine too. I've got that on here too. It's going to be a long show. I like long shows. Let me check the chat here. What do we want to do? ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Grok? Okay, makes sense to me. Says Grok. Let's get two more. Grok is a little wishy-washy because they pull a lot from tweets and posts. Grok is a little wishy-washy. All right, we got two for Grok. So Grok it is. Grok it is. All right, here we go. All right. So who is Mikhail Saakashvili? We're doing this in real time. Is a prominent Georgian Ukrainian politician, lawyer. Georgia is in the country, not the Peach State. Politician, lawyer, and former head of state known for his role in the Rose Revolution and pro-Western reforms in Georgia. He was born December 21st, 1967 in Tbilisi, Georgia, then part of the Soviet Union. He holds dual Georgian and Ukrainian citizenship. All right. Let's ask it a question. When was he president of Georgia? From 2004 to 2007, and then a second term from 2008 to 2013. Okay. Where did he go after he left Georgia. He was actually kicked out, wasn't he? Let's see. I think he was. How was he removed from office in Georgia? He was not forcibly removed the way that often happens in coups. He left the presidency peacefully and constitutionally at the end of his second term. Okay. Was he facing any charges in Georgia? Yes. Saakashvili has faced and continues to face multiple charges in Georgia. He's been subject to numerous criminal charges since leaving office that began the investigation in incoming Georgian Dream government and escalated after his return to Georgia in October 2021. He has been convicted. He has been convicted in several cases, which he and his supporters denounce as politically motivated to silence his pro-Western opposition. He is serving a combined sentence exceeding 12 years. No, he's not. He's the governor. Isn't he the governor of Odessa, Ukraine right now? No, he's not. I thought he was. Oh, he left in 2016, from 2015 to 2016. Okay, never mind. So, okay. Now, where was Saakashvili educated? Oh, Columbia Law School in New York City. Huh. The International Institute of Human Rights in France. The Hague Law Academy of International Law. George Washington University and the European University Institute. Does he have any ties to George W. Bush? Yes. Saakashvili has a close personal and political ties to George W. Bush and his administration. During Bush's second term, Saakashvili was one of the most pro-American leaders in the post-Soviet space. First official visit to the White House in 2005, frequent personal contacts from 2005 to 2008, and then in the Russo-Georgian War, U.S. military financial aid, NATO Bucharest summit, Bush visits Tbilisi. Okay, so you guys get my point. Like, they always seem to have these relationships with you know, the deep state, right? The establishment in our country. They seem to have these relationships. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people right now are focused on this Maria Corina Machado. And let me just show you guys real quick. So Maria Corina Machado is the executive director and founder of Sumate, right? It's a civil society group like Open Society and every other group you've ever seen in your life. USAID funded, National Endowment for Democracy funded millions of dollars into her accounts, into Sumate. And then, of course, if that wasn't enough, we've got the obligatory George W. Bush meeting here between Sumate and George W. Yep, nothing to see here. And then, of course, you've got all these people supporting it. I mean, there's a color revolution going on in Venezuela right now. You are watching intelligence manipulate our population, psyop our population into getting behind a regime change. And again, I'm not saying Maduro is a good guy or a bad guy. I'm saying that President Trump is doing exactly what he needs to do right now to stop the drug trafficking. And that is these vessels using CIA and intelligence CIA, don't say CIA, because he did admit CIA is going in there. But using intelligence to strike these boats and actually take them out. Don't do the Coast Guard boarding we did earlier. They just dump it off and pick it up later and whatever. All right. I'm going long on this. Where do we want to go next? Let's go to Russia. We got the 28-point peace plan. RT puts out Pentagon cut off communication with Germany army chief. So what we're seeing right now in the Russian aspect, right? In the Russia-Ukraine war, what we're seeing right now is President Trump understands, in my opinion, he understands that Putin has all the chips in this fight. All the chips. He has all the bargaining chips. Zelensky and Ukraine have nothing. The EU is still clinging desperately to Ukraine. And the United States understands that you got to cut ties. Like you got to cut the umbilical cord. If Ukraine wants to continue fighting, they got to do it without the EU. They got to do it without the United States. It's stupid for them to do that. Let's put this to bed. That's President Trump's take on all this. And he realizes that that's going to have to be done through Putin. Communications between the Pentagon and the German Defense Ministry have been sharply reduced, The Atlantic has reported, citing German Lieutenant General Christian Freuding. After years of being able to contact American defense officials day and night, Freuding says that communications have now really been cut off, like really, really cut off. It says Donald Trump has abruptly halted weapon shipments to Ukraine earlier this year. Berlin received no warning of the move. The officer said he now relies on diplomats in D.C. to, quote, find somebody in the Pentagon for basic information about U.S. policy. It's almost like they need spies in Washington, D.C. just to give them a heads up about what's going on in D.C. because we're not talking to NATO anymore. We're not talking to the EU about this specific issue anymore, is what it seems to be. His comments come as Washington has moved to reduce its direct involvement in the Ukraine conflict and in Europe in general, urging NATO members to play a bigger role in their defense. Imagine how much we're going to save, guys, when we don't have NATO bases all throughout Europe that we're funding to the tune of billions of dollars a year, and NATO actually has to pay their fair share. Imagine how that's going to work out. Also, a reason why the globalists are freaking the bleep out about taking down the election apparatus, taking down the drug money, taking down all that stuff, because they rely on the United States. The United States pays more than every country in NATO combined. Or is it everyone, or is it 19? I think it's the next 19 countries combined. The United States does. Now, President Trump has obviously drawn a lot of attention to this. Here's another article supporting the theory that the U.S. is kind of Monroe doctrining this and giving the spheres of influence. And Europe is going to have a role. EU is going to have a role in Europe, I think. If Trump gets the sovereign alliance, the sovereign bros, if he gets this, the Monroe Doctrine, etc., there will be a role for Europe. Russia's going to have a role. I don't know who it's going to be in Africa yet. If it's going to be South Africa, Egypt, not sure. I mean, South Africa, Egypt, two ends of the continent. Venezuela could have a role in South America, Brazil, Argentina. Trump's been talking with Lula lately. Obviously, Javier Milei. We'll see. Europeans rally around Ukraine as Trump envoy heads to Moscow. Again, this is just more evidence that there is a fracturing here. Meanwhile, as they're dealing with the plans, this was back in November 29th. So that was last week, technically. Ukraine hits 2 Russian Shadow Fleet tankers with drones. This is the interesting part. Politico. This was this week. Macron warned that the U.S. could betray Ukraine in leaked leaders' call, according to Der Spiegel. The call involved Emmanuel Macron, Friedrich Merz, the German Chancellor, NATO Security Mark Rutte, Finnish President Alexander Stubbs, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, leaders discussing the U.S.-led peace negotiations. There's a possibility that the U.S. will betray Ukraine on the issue of territory without clarity on security guarantees, says Emmanuel Macron. There you go. Macron's office released its own summary of the exchange, in which the words betray does not figure, whatever that means. This is my favorite part down here. The Ukrainian diplomat granted anonymity says, quote, in general, only the Russians benefit from any split between Europe and the America. So our consistent position is that transatlantic unity must be maintained. They're getting desperate. They're getting absolutely desperate. I told you guys, I don't think Putin is going to come to the table until, or is going to agree. He's already at the table. Witkoff and Kushner met with him this week. I don't think it's going to come to that point yet. I think the line in the sand for Putin is going to be the EU membership. Because if Ukraine, because that was in the 28-point plan. Now, we haven't seen the 19-point plan yet. And I bet you, I'd be willing to bet that one of two things happens. Either Putin draws a line on the EU, or that's out of the plan now. The Ukraine can join the European Union is out of the plan. And maybe go back to, and I don't know if this will be possible or not, but go back to the old free trade between Ukraine and Russia, where, when Poroshenko was trying to Not even Poroshenko. Who was it before Yanukovych? That was trying to negotiate the deal with the EU. Maybe it was Yanukovych during the Maidan. And Putin was saying no. And Yanukovych was saying, no, we're not doing this deal, because the EU wanted to essentially use Ukraine as a pass-through for European goods to get to Russia without any tariffs or sanctions or anything along those lines. And Putin was saying, absolutely not. I have free trade with Ukraine and not the EU. You're not going to use the EU as a pass-through, a go-between to bring your goods over here. And of course, there's a bunch of other stuff that led to the Maidan. Another coup, by the way, another coup. Go look at all the European and Western European and Western America ties to, guys like Yatsenyuk, even Zelensky. So I had a couple other stories. Oh, I want to go down so let's jump into this one here. Putin's latest warning to Ukraine shows how unlikely a peace deal is. Quote, either we liberate these territories by force of arms or Ukrainian troops leave these territories, end quote, says Putin, who is currently on a state visit to India. Russia is estimated to control more than 80% of the Donbass, where fighting between Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed separatists started long before Russia's full-scale invasion of 2022. Let me say that again. This is one of the first times that I've really seen, that I can remember. It's probably been done before, but one of the first times that I can remember a mainstream Mockingbird outlet like CNBC admitting to this. Russia is estimated to control more than 80% of the Donbass, where fighting between Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed separatists started long before Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. The war in the region first began in 2014. When Russia invaded and annexed Crimea. This was Barack Obama's famous line in the sand. Remember in 2014, after we overthrew Yanukovych in Kyiv, when we overthrew him, Russia immediately moved on Crimea, because Crimea, it's a little peninsula at the bottom of Ukraine. Crimea has Sevastopol, which is Russia's only deep water Black Sea port. And they need it. They need it. It's a strategic trade and military port for Russia. And Crimea, the East Donbass, like Donetsk and Luhansk, these are all Russian territories. These are all, predominantly Russian territories. The people that live there are ethnic Russians. And so the next place that the Maidan would have kind of trickled down to was Crimea, and Putin immediately saw that and pivoted on that right away and was like, we are not going to let the Western globalists take over our deep water port, our cold water port in the Black Sea in Sevastopol. They moved on it right away. It was not a violent revolution. It was not a violent annexation. You can watch it. Most of this is documented. They had a referendum vote and they voted to annex, and we'll get into that. Capturing and officially annexing the Donbass region would enable Russia to create a land bridge to Crimea, a crucial military and trade hub for Moscow. Under occupation, so-called referendums have shown up to 99% of residents in parts of the Donbass region voted to join the Russian Federation. But those referendums have been widely criticized as sham votes by the international community. Oh, let's jump into this story from Forbes. It was written in 2015, but it was updated, ironically, 7 years later in 2022 after the invasion. So from 2015, the U.S. and European Union may want to save Crimeans from themselves, but the Crimeans are happy right where they are. 1 year after the annexation of the Ukrainian peninsula in the Black Sea, poll after poll shows that the locals here, be they Ukrainian, ethnic Russians, or Tatars, are mostly all in agreement. Life with Russia is better than life with Ukraine. Little has changed over the last 12 months, despite huge efforts on the parts of Kyiv, Brussels, Washington, and the Organizations for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the bulk of humanity living on the Black Sea Peninsula believed the referendum to secede from Ukraine was legit. At some point, the West will have to recognize Crimea's right to self-rule, unless we are all to believe the local polls polled by Gallup and GFK were done so with FSB boogeymen standing by with guns in their hands. In June 2014, a Gallup poll with the Broadcasting Board of Governors, who's the Broadcasting Board of Governors, folks, asked Crimeans if the result of the March 16th, 2014 referendum to secede reflected the views of the people. A total of 82.8% of Crimeans said yes. When broke down by ethnicity, 93.6% of ethnic Russians said they believed the vote to secede was legitimate. 68.4% of ethnic Ukrainians felt so. And moreover, when asking if joining Russia will ultimately make life better for them and their family, 74% said yes, while 5.5% said no. Is that the only example? Well, here's an example that shows that it's actually not favorable. This Gallup poll from 2014 shows that Crimeans had very different ideas about Russia earlier this year. A public opinion poll taken in Crimea last year, now this is 2014, before the referendum on Sunday, that resulted in a 97% vote favoring secession from Ukraine and joining Russia suggests that residents were far less enthusiastic about Russia back then. In fact, less than a quarter of respondents last year wanted to join Russia. Well, that's interesting because Gallup and everybody else says the complete opposite. The poll said the complete opposite. Who the hell conducted this poll? Let's see. This poll was conducted in May of 2013 by the International Republican Institute, a U.S. government-funded agency whose chairman is Republican Senator John McCain. The only poll showing that they don't like being Russian is a poll from John fucking McCain. Oh man. All right. Let's do another ad here and then we'll close out with a couple more stories. Let's talk about our friends over at Perplexity and Rumble. Looking for smarter ways to browse and enjoy your content without ads? Get the Perplexity Pro bundle with Rumble Premium for just $19.99 a month when you sign up before December 31st, normally a $29.99 value. With Rumble Premium, you'll get an ad-free viewing experience. Remember what I was telling you earlier? You're the customer. If you don't pay for it, you're the customer. You get an ad-free viewing experience for $19.99 a month up before December 31st, normally a $29.99 value. With Rumble Premium, you'll get the ad-free viewing all across your devices and across exclusive premium content. No interruptions, just the videos and streams that you love anytime, anywhere. Plus, Perplexity Pro boost your productivity with unlimited research, unlimited uploads, exclusive member perks, and access to the latest and most advanced AI models for faster, smarter answers every single day. Save over 30% on this powerful bundle. Head to rumble.com/premium before December 31st to sign up and unlock your premium experience. And thank you to Rumble and Perplexity. Let me jump in the chat here for a minute. I'm going to take a quick break. I feel bad, man. I hate going after certain people and stuff. I don't use names, but it still sucks, man, that we have to navigate through psyops and psyacs and spooks and everything else. But so it goes. All right, guys, smash that thumbs up. A lot of the Con Inc. community is going to be really distraught when they find out how badly we've been manipulated regarding Ukraine, Russia. That has been one of the biggest manipulations of people in this country, propagandized, straight up propagandized. And let's talk about the people who do the propaganda. Jim Acosta.
And that's why I strongly believe, and there are people who disagree with me on this, that other folks in the press in the room should speak up in that moment and say, Mr. President, that is not appropriate. And, you know, and double down on the questions that were asked. Why didn't you answer that question? Why are you resorting to personal attacks? Why can't you take the heat? What's going on here? And, you know, to me, I think the only solution to all of this is collective action. We need to see the networks get together, perhaps with some of the major newspapers, send a letter to the White House, send it to Caroline Leavitt, and say, listen, if the president does not stop these attacks, we're not coming into your Oval Office sprays. We're not going to ride with you on Air Force One. You can have Fox and all of these other sycophantic outlets covering you, but we're just not going to do it. We're going to take a break for a while until you clean up your act. That's what I think they should do.
Yes, please do that. Get the fuck out of here. Adios. Sayonara. Nobody wants you in there. Get the AP out. Get New York Times out. Get WAPO out. All the propaganda that they've put out there, the Russia collusion hoax, the 2020 election free and fair, best election, safest election ever, COVID, vaccines are safe and effective. You guys get the hell out of here. You guys don't even ask hard questions. Like, let's get some journalists in there that want to ask questions. They're afraid to talk to the people that want to ask questions. Case in point, last night, my opinion, maybe he'll come back. Maybe we'll get that interview and we'll get to hash it out. But as of right now, the optics on it are bad. It looks like they don't want to face any type of scrutiny. And these are the same people right here, the Jim Acostas of the world. They don't scrutinize. Your job as a journalist is to scrutinize. Put me in front of President Trump. I'll ask him some tough questions. I will tell you right now, I will ask him some tough questions. But they don't want that. They don't actually want that. I do like this, though. President Trump's White House put this up. The leaderboard of the most propagandized news outlets. They call it the misleading, biased, exposed. The Washington Post exposed. Media offender of the week is the Washington Post exposed. Love it. Should we play this?
Statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated. And I would just add one more point to remind the American public why these lethal strikes are taking place. Because this administration has designated these narco-terrorists as foreign terrorist organizations. The president has a right to take them out if they are threatening the United States of America and if they are bringing illegal narcotics that are killing our citizens at a record rate, which is what they are doing. And under the previous administration, there was enough fentanyl trafficked into our country to kill every American man, woman, and child many times over. And so that's why you've seen a drastic difference in this administration's policy with respect to the last. And it's one of the many reasons the American public reelected this president and support this Secretary of War in conducting these strikes.
Let's go. If you guys were watching earlier, I showed you guys why the strikes are necessary, and it's the only way to effectively stop these drug traffickers. You know what? There was actually, well, I got one more clip I want to play on this kind of point right here, and it's from the one and only bald, pantless nobody, Brian Stelter.
The president has ramped up his attacks on journalists in recent weeks. This isn't a new strategy for him. We have seen this. What is this all about? Is this just about controlling the narrative?
To delegitimize the media. I would say it's to delegitimize the media, Jessica. This media bias monitor is being produced at taxpayer expense. It's a featured part of the White House website, and it's about trying to tarnish and demean various news outlets, as well as media outlets that have nothing to do with the news business. For example, one of the targets of this White House webpage is Whoopi Goldberg, the entertainer who co-hosts The View. So it's about targeting perceived liberals, perceived enemies, and as always, trying to attack the messenger. But here's what happens whenever the president or his aides go after a journalist or go after a news outlet. It makes people wonder what the fuss is about, what the controversy is about. The other day, the president called a New York Times reporter ugly. It made more people want to read the story and find out what the story was about. That story was about the president's stamina and how he's less visible than he was during Trump 1.0 back in 2017. When he called a reporter at CBS stupid the other day, I wanted to know, what was that story about? The reporter was asking about Afghans coming to the U.S. and the vetting process of the U.S. government. A couple of weeks ago, and the president called a reporter piggy. What was she asking about? The Epstein files. So I think when the president insults reporters or when the White House goes and claims media outlets are biased, it might draw more attention, more curiosity about what the stories are about. It might actually draw more attention to the questions being asked. And that way people can make up their own minds about whether the stories are legitimate, whether the questions are fair. Look, the White House, like any other entity, it can go ahead and criticize the press. Criticism can be a good thing. But when I look at this particular media bias monitor, it seems mostly to be a way to delegitimize the press.
The president.
Absolutely. The press does a good job at delegitimizing themselves. They don't need the White House to actually point all that out to us. And let me go back here and show you guys this, because this was something else. Oh, wait, what do we got now? What is this? Oh, let's see what Cuban officials quietly reach out to Washington as Venezuela enters the end game. In a move nobody expected this soon, and Havana would never admit in daylight, elements inside the Cuban regime have opened discreet channels to U.S. officials to discuss what a post-Maduro Venezuela might look like. Oh, the color revolution is almost complete. The timing isn't accidental. The U.S. has surged military assets into the Caribbean. Maduro's inner circle is rumored to be fracturing, and multiple intelligence services have picked up chatter that Caracas is testing the waters on an exit deal. Recent reporting suggests Maduro himself has floated conditions for stepping down, a rare signal from a leader who spent a decade insisting he would die in office. For Cuba, Venezuela is an economic lifeline. Oil shipments, financial support, and political cover all flow from Caracas to Havana. If the Maduro era truly is wobbling, Cuba needs to know what comes next and whether Washington is preparing a controlled transition or a fast break that leaves regional power vacuums. The Trump administration, for its part, is playing its cards close. Officials aren't confirming the outreach, but they're not denying the strategic moment either. With U.S. forces already operating in the region on counter-trafficking missions, Washington suddenly has leverage Havana hasn't felt in years. What this signals, Cuba is hedging, not defecting, but hedging itself into the geopolitical conversation it's telling. Maduro's grip may be softer than Caracas projects, you think. Even trial balloons about stepping down would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. The U.S. has momentum. Regional states and recalculating military postures shifting, and Havana doesn't want to be caught flat-footed. If these channels expand, even unofficially, we're looking at the first quiet U.S.-Cuba strategic dialogue since the thaw years. When regimes start planning for life after strongman, it usually means they've already imagined the ending, and this ending may be closer than anyone expected. Source, Reuters. And Pi Q. I wonder. Yeah. So, hey, look. The coup was successful. As long as we don't end with troops on the ground and another CIA front, it is what it is. If it's Maria Machado, that is the CIA's darling child. That is the CIA's darling child in this operation. Maria Machado. Guaido? Maybe not. So Machado is actually, I think she's banned for 15 years from running for office because of the Sumate thing. And Guaido he should be in prison if he's not. I think he's under house arrest, isn't he? For trying to overthrow the government. I don't know, man. It's one of the hardest things for people to, I forgot the whole point of me going back to X, but that's one of the hardest things for people to swallow, man. Where is the derp? Oh, we got to play this. So, Adelita Grijalva, congresswoman from Texas, I believe. No, Arizona, excuse me. Oh, Arizona, the newest one, right? She's the one that just got sworn in. She put this out on X. ICE is a lawless agency under this administration, operating with no transparency, no accountability, and no disregard for basic due process. Let me see if I can find the other post first. Let's duplicate this one and put this one on the back burner. You got to see the propaganda here. Stand by. Targets. Replies. There we go. Oh, why is X not letting me get to my replies? Am I banned? Did somebody ban me from X? No, I just can't get to replies. So this Grijalva woman went out there and was saying that she got pepper sprayed by ICE agents in the face. In the face. And then the video came out.
Hey, put it down. Put it down. You're a city member of Congress. You need to calm down. You guys need to calm down and get out. You need to get out. You need to get out. Get out of the way. You guys need to clear now.
Did you guys see it? She got shot in the face.
Clear now.
Oh, wait. She didn't get shot in the face. She got shot in the feet. They're telling you, get out of here. You need to leave. This is an operation. I'm a congresswoman. I can stay wherever I want. No, you can't. No, you can't. You're interfering with their operation. Fuck around and find out. Anyways, newest junior member of Congress right there. Grijalva. She was sworn in after the shutdown ended. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. All right. I think that is going to do it for the show. I don't know if I have any Rumble rants. Let's see. Yeah, there's one. Let's pull that up. We got one Rumble rant here from Crashing Thunder. Hello, my name is Crashing Thunder, and I'm a serial lurker. Great show, CanCon. Always a pleasure to catch you live. Thank you, Crashing Thunder. Appreciate that, man. I'm assuming is Crashing Thunder like a motorcycle thing? I don't know, but I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm waiting for Rumble to Rumble's put me in the creator program. I've applied and I've not yet been accepted. You have to meet certain criteria to be in it, and I met the criteria last weekend and I applied, and I've not heard back yet. So I'm looking forward to it. If I can get in there, that'll be awesome. Maggravator, a car club. Yeah, it could be. It sounds like, I mean, Rolling Thunder is like motorcycle things. So that's why I was wondering. Let's check the chat here for a minute. I live in Comey, Washington. I can tell you firsthand, we have not been a red state since they did mail-in ballotings. They're all just a bunch of damn criminals. I'm sick of it. Candy Bake, you're spot on. That is so, you know, one of the other stories, and shockingly, I did not have this story up. And this is an important story here. We had the elections in Honduras. I did talk about Juan Orlando Hernandez, right? And how I think that the Carvajal letter, I think that is setting up the same thing that they did to Juan Orlando Hernandez. I think you're going to see, and somebody flag this. You're going to see Maduro step down. He's going to go somewhere. He's going to get extradited to the United States, potentially, to be put on trial. Maybe, although maybe not. You know what? Maybe not. Because I do think, and just my personal opinion here, I do think Maduro knows about election fraud. I think he's aware that the Smartmatic globalists, the SGO core, I think he's aware that they have the capabilities of manipulating elections, and that's why they leave him there. I think that's why they left him there. Same with Chavez. If they take him out and they send him to Qatar and he lives a life of luxury, that's probably the best case scenario for them. Like, go retire in Qatar, live out your wildest dreams. Nothing is off limits to you. Maybe one day you'll get taken out by a rocket missile strike like Netanyahu tried to the Hamas negotiators. Remember that? When Netanyahu struck Qatar and Trump was like, what the f are you doing? They might try something like that. But it sounds like Carvajal is trying to get on board with the same routine that they used to take Hernandez out. And he's trying to negotiate his testimony, whether it's real or not, for his pardon, for a time served, a plea deal. And that will end up getting Maduro or Maduro's regime, some people in Maduro's regime. Let's see if that happens. That's what I think is being set up right now. But we sent over a delegation for the Honduran election, and it was Representative Rick Crawford. And Representative Rick Crawford, let me check my notes on him real quick. Yeah, Representative Rick Crawford has some interesting ties, but he's a Republican representative on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and him and a delegation went to Honduras to monitor their elections in Honduras. Now, the other places, let me see. Let me get a map of the Caribbean. And I know I spelled it wrong. That's okay. So if you look at the maps here, and I'm going to pull this up. Open image and new tab. Let's go to this image. I want to show you guys this. Okay. Oh man, this one's not going to be good because it doesn't have all of the small little islands. Oh man. Hold on. Let me get a better map. This one's probably better. I want to show you guys the islands that we're monitoring elections in. No, this one's not any better. Okay, so you guys can look up this on your own. But so we went to Honduras, and we monitored the elections in Honduras after the Juan Orlando Hernandez and all that stuff. The other three places that Crawford and the HPSCI have gone to monitor elections so far this year is Suriname, Barbados, and Guyana. Look up those three countries. Look up their proximity to Venezuela, and use your imagination. Is that enough? Use your imagination. All right, I think that's going to be about it then. That'll just about do it. I don't think there's... Is there anything else? No. So make sure you get... Oh, you know what? Let's play this clip. I lied. This is hilarious.
I've heard 11
Hilarious, and as in like, what the fuck, England?
police officers turned up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I'd left my front door open. I was waiting for my dad to come to the house. I was actually in the bath.
And 11
they opened the door themselves.
And just came in?
And came in.
And you're in the bath?
Yeah.
And what do they say to you?
Well, I heard my name, which was one female out of the lot of them.
And 10 male officers?
Yeah. And then I heard my name, and I thought, oh, it might be my sister, because it didn't sound like someone who was, because obviously I was upstairs in the bath. And then they just come up the stairs, and they didn't give me any privacy or anything. Like, I had
You were naked?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Disgusted and really upset. I was crying my eyes out.
And what did they say to you? What did they say they were there for?
Well, I was just asking them, can they just leave the female officer, and can they please go downstairs? As obviously I was upset, and I had no clothes on, and they kind of wanted to watch me get changed, and I was very upset about that. In the end, they did send the males down the stairs, and the female officer sat with me. I was crying my eyes out. I was really upset, and then I said, well, what are you even here for? Because I was shocked. I was in utter shock. And she said, for malicious communications, hate crime and malicious communications. And I said, well, what for? And they said, we'll discuss that when we get to the
So here's what this woman did. She had 11 British police officers kick in her door and try and arrest her while she was in the bath. Why? Because she sent a text message with the word faggot in it. She said faggot. And the person she called a faggot sexually assaulted her. But arrest the woman for calling him a faggot. All right, one last sponsor before we get out of here, and let's talk about Blue Chew. Blue Chew is a chewable tablet that are made with active ingredients found in popular ED medications, but in chewable form and at a much more affordable price. No waiting rooms, no pharmacy lines, just a quick online visit, and once approved by a licensed medical provider, Blue Chew sends the chews straight to your door. Look, guys, Blue Chew is the upgrade button for your sex life. Level up and get your first month free at bluechew.com and we've got a special deal for our Rumble listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code Rumble. Just pay $5 in shipping, and that's promo code Rumble. All plans include an online health assessment, prescription medication, if appropriate, monthly refills, and ongoing medical support. A prescription will only be written if deemed medically appropriate after an online health assessment with a licensed provider. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Please smash that thumbs up, share the show out. A lot of good information in here. I apologize. I'm hoping that we are able to get that guest back on Why We Vote maybe next week or some other week. And Green Ozone faggot, how retarded. We're taking fag and retard back. We're taking fag and retard back. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Stay frosty. God bless each and every one of you. God bless America. Make the fortune cookie country pay for this.